Good afternoon. Great. We are privileged once again to come together. And like myself, I definitely also have the same feeling that this morning's session has been real line of thoughts and experiences and lessons learned. Something new really kicked here. And I believe that that is the reason we've been here, to learn something new, share knowledge, and also exchange all the necessary kind of help that can really support all of us. We are privileged once again to enter into the second session, and this session is going to be a wonderful time looking on this pulpit or stage with all our experts here, and we strongly believe that what we are going to discuss now is also another thought-provoking point that we need to really come into it and actively engage in this particular discussion. The topic here, that is technology transfer and commercialization in Africa and Southern Asia, challenges, opportunities, lessons learned, and best practices. And it will surprise you to know that all the speakers, our panel members are really endowed when it comes to areas of technology transfer, commercialization. Imagine having Mesty here. What is your problem again? I believe by the time you'll be leaving, it's going to be a whole new ball networking that will help all of us to be able to transfer our technologies and commercialization. I am moderating on behalf of the Director General, Professor Francis Davis, and my name is Dr. Osei Eric Opoku, Director Innovations, TCC. And I welcome you all to be with us in this session, and you are part of it. We will give you the opportunity to ask questions and all help to interact when our speakers are done with their submissions. On that note, I once again want to greet my panel and say good afternoon to you all, and welcome. And so, as the modus operandi may require, it's good that we allow you to introduce yourself, and especially you mention your name, so that we can get the rhythm as we learned this morning properly, instead of anyone crucifying your names. So I will start from my immediate right. You mention your name and give us a brief about yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Samba Sow. I'm from the Gambia, and also the Director for Science, Technology, and Innovation. In terms of academic background, I hold a master's in intellectual property. Good. And also currently pursuing a degree in entrepreneurship studies, looking at how entrepreneurship will be embedded in core engineering training in the Gambia. So thank you so much.
Wow, that's great, especially intellectual property. Let's give it to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Osei Eric Opoku.
Thank you.
Distinguished participants and eminent people present here. My name is Sifas Ajay Mensah, and I'm the Director for Research, Statistics and Information Management at the Ghana Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Prior to this position, I've also held the position of the Deputy Director for Science, Technology, and Innovation. I've worked across several ministries, especially to do with policy, science policy, research, and integration. I was at the Ministry of Education, where I was then Acting Director, Tertiary Education. I worked with the Ministry of Aviation, worked with the Ministry of Transport. Then again, currently I'm the head of the Research Council for the Ghana Science Granting Council Initiative. I also represent the sub-region, that is what we call SAMO, Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Management Organization, as the RMO Secretary on the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis. Thank you.
Wow, let's give it to him. I believe we have the right panel members, and I believe it's going to be a really engaging session. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
My name is Professor Palle Jongom. I'm a professor of nanomaterial physics, and I come from the University Cheikh Anta Diop of Dakar in Senegal, in West Africa. We're still in West Africa.
Great.
And also, I'm the president of the African Material Research Society. We're looking at promoting research and innovation through the continent for the African development. So I'm pleased to be here and talking about this exciting topic, which is one of our mission at the African Material Research Society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give it to him. Thank you. Great, great. So we will give them the opportunity now, as we have our point here, technology transfer and commercialization in Africa and Southern Asia, challenges, opportunities, lessons learned, and best practices. Can we start from Mr. Cephas? Thank you.
Thank you very much. For an introduction, I want to say that when we look at the various presentations that have been made over this morning and the statement that has been played, we all will agree that for technology transfer to be effective and efficient, there's a need for us to have a very good regulatory and policy framework that will guide the entire process as we normally would. And I want to say that as a best practices, for example, from the Ghanaian perspective, we are more than enough in terms of what's the framework that guides technology transfer, commercialization within our region here in Ghana. And so starting maybe from the AU Agenda 2063 that has been spoken about, then the SDG, then within our own Ghana National Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which is being revised 2024 to 2030. Then again, we have seen, I heard Professor Otibuatin talks about the fact that the TCC is almost about 52 years old. Then it cuts my mind back that Ghana has had a technology transfer regulations 1992, which is LI 15447. Subsequent that, we've seen quite a number of frameworks that is guiding how we've been able to come far. So for example, the Copyright Act 2005 at 690, the Patents Act 2003 at 651, the Trademarks Act 2004 at 664, the Industrial Designs Act 2003, that's at 660, then the Protection Against Unfair Competitions Act 2000, which is about Act 589. So we could see that in terms of some of the best practice about how we want to look at technology transfer, the framework is there. But then we can also see how then do we look at the integration of the science, technology, and innovation aspect. Ghana, as we know, as a country within the Africa, the AU agenda and also STISA, we are looking at how do we mainstream science, technology, and innovation so that it is placed at the center of socio-economic development. One of the key things has been that how does science, technology, and innovation drives the attainment of the SDG goal. And Ghana has a roadmap for the attainment of the science, technology, and innovation sustainable development goals. We have that roadmap. We have the roadmap for the assessment of capacity. We have also the needs, capacity needs assessment that you have as a country. So one of the lessons has been about the framework. Having had this framework, then it quite becomes very obvious that at the level at which we want
recording in progress
change in terms of the innovation value chains or the transfer value chains, are we getting as we ought to do? From my perspective, what I see is that it appears that even though we are doing quite well in terms of how we look at the value chain of the technology transfer cycle, or the value chain, the roadmap. We have not been able to actually target the problem that exists when you move from one phase to the other, because as you know, it's a process. And this process is one thing that we have to look at it critically so that we can tailor our needs to be able to address the bottlenecks as we move from one stage to the other. So for instance, we have seen that we talk about the fact that there are existing laws. So how are those existing laws helping researchers? How are the existing laws helping innovators? How are these existing laws also helping how does policy linking all these technology transfer processes in the way that we are able to make that particular impact? And I recall that just 2 weeks ago, we met at the level of the Science Granting Council Initiative, which is an initiative of the 17 members of Sub-Saharan Africa. To the west of Africa, we are looking at Ghana, we are looking at Sierra Leone, we are looking at Senegal, we are looking at Cote d'Ivoire, and we are looking at Nigeria. Then we come to the east of Africa, we are looking at Kenya, we are looking at Uganda, we are looking at Tanzania, we are looking at Ethiopia, and we are looking at Rwanda. To the southern part of Africa, we have Namibia, we have Zimbabwe, we have Botswana, we have Mozambique, we have Malawi, and we have Namibia. So this 17 Grant Council is basically about how we effectively manage research grants, science, technology, and using it to be able to build our national priorities. One of the things that has been obvious is how does the private sector comes in immediately when we are looking at our cycle right from the onset. So it is not that the private sector is detached from the process. Yes, they have been part. We have seen quite a number of successes where this morning Dr. Michael Ejikun talks about CSR, what they are doing, their linkages to the private sector, some of the good things in terms of nutritious and the quality of innovation. These things have been done in collaboration with the private sector. But then how do we engage them the more so that right from the onset they can have something that they think that once in the private sector, of course, business oriented. So what benefit will it be for them? What are the investment portfolios for them? And what are the returns when they are able to put in their money right from the onset? So that once we are able to involve them right from the onset, then we can be able to say that we can have some form of strategy, or we can be able to track the sustainability aspect of our technology transfers and innovations that you are. It's one of the key things that from a perspective of policy, I think that if you're able to do it effectively, we will do. Yes, now I held the view that we have gone past the stage where we'll continue to talk about the fact that there is the need for academia research policy. We have it. In fact, it has been there. And these days, we've seen quite a number of things that academia is doing with private sector, academia is doing with policy, academia is doing with what? With research. But then we also have to look at sort of the best practice and lessons. The question is that it appears when it comes to those particular areas that academia appears to be a little bit far from what? From what is from the policy reality. It appears. Why is it that? It is that, and it's a question I'm also struggling to answer, because the same professors, the same academia, the same experts, they are the very people who government will hire or who government will consult to come and develop the nice policies for us. Then we now come to the extent that how then that these particular policies that we turn out in terms of technology transfer, they seem to what? To be far away from that particular same policy. So then it comes to the issue of our science what? Science communication. And so the UNESCO recommendations of science and scientific researchers, the point 2, science must communicate with society and what? And vice versa. How do we enhance science communication around technology transfer policies in such a way that it becomes a key lesson that we do? And so we see, for example, some of the questions is about what are some of the key lessons and practices within Africa and even Asia. We are seeing how they are documenting some of the things that they are doing. We are seeing how they are documenting their successes. We are seeing how they are talking about the good things in technology transfer. We can be able to assess them. We have not been able to do that effectively. That is what I must point towards. And so it will appear that there exists a gap within how we are able to tell our stories along that area. My very another point I also want to raise is that the review of the STISTA 2034 document that is currently the draft in this form, which we happen to have access to last 2 weeks ago at the level of some graduate councils. One of the things to also be how do we also collect data on some of these things. So we see that the data collection is very weak. So when ASTI came around, the African Science, Technology, and Innovation Indicators, that we all know we started somewhere, and we I think probably within our region, apart from maybe South Africa, maybe Egypt, and some few countries, yes, who are doing very well in collecting that, we have not been able to actually look at it sustainably. So I think these are some of the lessons and the best practices that we need to adopt in terms of how we can look at the technical transfer and commercialization in Africa and within Southern Asia. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move straight to the Gambia. So let's give you some 7 minutes. Then definitely we will go around, allow our team also to participate in the conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I must start by saying the preempt in terms of what we are presenting right now or dwelling on has already been done earlier in the previous speakers during the official opening. It's clear to everyone that globally there is this push for countries being driven by innovation and technological development towards ensuring that we have knowledge-based economies. And the foundation for all of this is anchored on education and training. So in doing that, we must ensure that we have responsive education and we have policies that guide the effective implementation of the programs that we teach in our education institutions and research and development institutions. How do we achieve this? We must build capacity. Capacity at the level of the institution, but also the other feeder, which is the industry and the private sector. They should understand why are we innovating, why are we creating. Because at the end of the day, the four corners of the classroom is for the competence. Now, how this competence is going to be put into an industrial applicable product or process, that link must be created at a very early stage. At national level, like mentioned by my colleague, we also have similar policies, but the policies do not readily translate to action. And that is a primary challenge that as we offset into this presentation, we must take into consideration. Now, streamlining towards the issue of technology transfer. The primary objective is if you are developing a technology, it's either a product or process. And in doing that, whether it's a new one, whether it's going to be something that just involves a secondary inventive step. So all of this needs to be identified. And when you are talking about technology transfer, you cannot do away with the intellectual property regime, because most of it propels around the intellectual property regime and the kinds of intellectual property regulations and policies that you have at the national level and the corresponding institutional IP policies that you may have. So we've seen also relatively the introduction of intellectual property policies in most universities, especially the tech-based universities, tech and innovation-based universities, which is a good improvement. Aspects relating to how we include commercialization as part of those educational processes is critical. Now, how do we achieve that? There is this global trend also we've seen. It used to be technology development, innovation came in, and now we are seeing that it's not only stopping at innovation but entrepreneurship. So how that commercialization aspect is going to be done, it's going to be done in the form of a business venture. Do we have time as lecturers or researchers to take up what we research or innovate into that business aspect? Is a question that we have to answer. Now, there is no need to discuss around what is happening in terms of countries that have embraced technological development, in terms of their classification, and those that have not embraced technological development. The answer to that is very clear, because we need technology in all our processes, in all our sectoral development, and the need for us to nurture institutions within universities to support the expansion and exploitation of technologies that we have from our researchers. Now, in terms of also a contribution to economy is a given, because we understand that if you develop a technology as the owner, if you have a license around it, you will benefit, but at the same time your institution will benefit, depending on the type of institutional policy that you have in terms of benefit sharing, because it involves a lot of work, and if it becomes a commercial value, then the institution will benefit, the researchers will benefit, and those who had included some of their funds into it will also benefit from it. Now we have to agree that the alignment of our national intellectual property policies and our education policies should be a thing that we should embrace as countries that are earmarking our targets towards becoming innovation-led economies. Because most of the time the challenge we have is where you have the intellectual property office domicile and where you have national innovation systems is in different places. So that communication breakdown, and in terms of requirements for what will be the commercialization administrative procedures in line with the national law, and also the intellectual property requirements, might be a challenge. So it will be good if we have policies that are aligned to the intellectual property policy, then we can align to it to ensure that there's effective exploitation in the form of licensing agreements and other commercial ventures. Now, in terms of challenges that we've seen, especially in our country, as a heads up, is we've seen that the training, the mismatch with labor market, it's something that also, even if you were to innovate, if you are even innovating on something that can be produced in your country, and you don't have the capacity, then you are better off not to innovate it. And another aspect is the type of the curriculum that we teach. Is it responsive? And who are the ones teaching it? Are they competent enough to teach the curriculum? And at the same time, in terms of teaching and learning, and also ensuring that we have the commercial value, do we have the right resources in terms of laboratory resources? So these are all challenges that are impeding on our technology transfer drive in our countries. But at the same time, there is this challenge, because mostly we can have national policy for research, innovation, technology, you have the IP policy. But the other aspect is without funding, we will just be doing the routine teaching and the normal POP, publish or perish. And that will not lead to anything. So that is why the call for institutionalization of national research and innovation funds to ensure that the respective actors of the ecosystem, from researchers, innovators, people operating in technology and tech hubs, they can apply to win grants and take up the innovations and new inventions into a commercial value. And at the same time, this could be reinvested in terms of profits back to the fund to ensure that there is sustainability. Another aspect is the issue of little awareness. We've seen more studies, if you look at literature, telling you that there is little awareness amongst the actors in terms of the potential of technology transfer. most researchers are doing it just to fulfill donor-funded requirements, national requirements, or also just for the purpose of, I don't want to mention promotions, I'm still in the hands of professors, but so for the purpose of promotion. So we've seen that. But now who takes the lead in terms of ensuring that if we have innovated, where is it taken? So there is this institutional setup where in now countries and institutions, universities globally are institutionalizing what you call innovation and entrepreneurship hubs. They are similar to what you had. All they do is they ensure that they map out from the level of the teaching, what is the gaps. They manage industrial placements, internships, the type of technologies that have been generated in the universities. How are they, if they have the potential of licensing, they handle it and ensure that whatever comes back to the university is propelled back into expanding onto either another form of research or even building infrastructure to support research in the university. Another challenge is the issue of the focus in terms of our research. Mostly, yes, we can publish, we have research, yeah, and we can be seeing that most of it is not focused in terms of our national priorities. Because if you have a national fund, it will focus on your national priorities. But if it is donor-driven, mostly in many cases, you will see that the priorities are dictated by the funder or the targets of the funding agency. So that is why there is this great push. If we want to push the technology transfer drive, we need to institutionalize a fund in addition to the support structures that we have. Now, just before I get back the mic to you, just to see, why are we doing all of this? Why are we talking about technology transfer? We are doing this to ensure that we are increasing efficiency in the way we do things in our respective priority sectors. We are doing it to increase productivity in terms of the products, the processes that we have in our respective sectors of economy and sectors of development. But at the same time, with technology, we've seen that there is reduced input in terms of time, the time you put into something. Yeah, so basically, and at the same time, we've seen that it will reduce the usage of raw materials, because if you have an inventive step that can allow you not actually to bypass, but at least to use little resources with a high impactful procedure or product, then we should be able to embrace technology transfer. So I will stop from here and pan back.
Wow, let's give it to him. Thank you so much. We are picking a lot of things from these two presentations, and I know by the time we are done with Senegal, that's going to be fantastic. We are hearing of regulatory issues, tech transfer, framework, or policy. We are hearing about IP and legal awareness that lecturers and faculty, senior members or researchers should know. Picking a lot from how universities can really support our researchers to move their innovations into the industry, and government supporting with funding so that you are not bottleneck tied down with somebody bringing his funds from somewhere to help you do your thing. Definitely you do his bit for him. I'm so grateful, and I'm learning a lot of things myself. Let's give the opportunity now to our Prof from Senegal. Prof, take over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, I'm sure it's always difficult to speak at the last stage. And yeah, it is there. I build, first I have two main general comment or question which are built on the presentation that we had this morning.
Exactly.
And my first question is that, who is directing the research and innovation in the continent? We had this answer at the African Material Research Society. We have an international conference that we held each year, and all of material research university, academic researchers, they get together in the field of material and technology development and so on. And at the end of each presentation, if you look at the acknowledgement, researchers are acknowledging international agencies. Thanks to the fund from the UNESCO, from the Royal Society, from ICTP, from the NSF, except South Africa, I could say, from the National Science Research Foundation. So this is a big question, and this is a challenge that we researchers and technology developers, what we are facing in the continent. So there is a problem of financing the innovation and the research through the continent. This is a big challenge. And the second point is technology transfer, developing hub in the universities. If you look at mostly in our universities, our research centers, we don't have technology hubs. We don't have innovation hubs. So we researchers and universities, we are academians, we are focused on developing our careers instead of looking at the bigger project of the research that we are doing and thinking, okay, we have to cut this project into different pieces, each piece corresponding to one publication. So this is another challenge, and this comes back into the first question. If we don't have the money, there is no way to do the research, and we end up by depending on international agencies in order to conduct exactly, and we focus on developing in our career instead of developing technology for the continent. So, Mr. Moderator, I'm not going to talk too much. I think this is the 2 points after my colleague have developed. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so online participant, please, you have the opportunity. You will be called upon to ask your questions. Feel free to raise your electronic hand. I believe our technicians will help. Then those of us here also, we will be given the opportunity. It's a pure dialogue session. Please, looking at all the conversation here, there's one thin line that we are learning from all the countries representing. And I strongly believe that as you add your voice, we will see what to do. And that's the reason being here for such an international conference. So don't hide your voice. Speak out, and let's see where we can direct our energies. Thank you. Anybody here first? Oh, okay. Okay, so I saw your hand first. Good. Please help me. Where is so that we coordinate the hands. And online too, we'll give them opportunity. So if you see any hand over there, please give the person one slot opportunity to also share. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Kingsley Chu,
okay.
From Cameroon. And I appreciate the panelists for their little mastery of the topics they are presenting on. If we listen from their presentations, and we'll appreciate that we have identified 3 major challenges. Sure. That of financing, that of who is directing the research, as well as the enabling environment. That said, I think what I could not pick out from my keen attention is what are some of those best practices? Because a best practice should be associated to a challenge. So what are some of those best practices and associated challenges? Thank you.
Good. So it's a dialogue. Who is coming in? Who can add? Okay, we leave them. Any tested?
Yeah, approach? Okay. This, I'm using the case model for the Gambia. Having understood this challenge in terms of policy, funding, who leads, because sometimes we see in the innovation ecosystem, we have a lot of cooks. At any time you have in a situation where you have a lot of cooks, it's sometimes challenging. So what we did is we had to put in place what you call a National Research and Innovation Fund. That is managed by a council and funds projects based on priorities. in line with the prevailing national development plan. Then the other aspect is because technology transfer and research is dictated by the level of competencies that we have in terms of capacity. So we had to come and put in place a specialized university focusing on technology. That is reading of applied sciences, engineering, and technology. And the model in terms of training that we use is, we use what you call the embedded approach. An embedded approach wherein we said, if you are starting engineering courses at an early stage, you should start getting the entrepreneurial attributes embedded in the curriculum. So by the time you mature into levels 4 of your first degree program, you would have been getting doses of prototype development, business establishment skills, knowing how to register your business, and you would have been taken through to mentorship and coaching. And in the same program also, we ensured that the industry played a critical role in terms of internships, in terms of program feedback, and at the same time, for them to provide spaces for industrial placement. So that is what we are doing. Where we are having the challenge still now is in terms of who leads. Because who leads is always challenging. Because aspects related to technology transfer, in terms of IPR, is managed by the Industrial Property Office, which is under the Ministry of Justice. In terms of industries, they are the Ministry of Trade. And they are supposed to be the recipients of graduates in terms of employability, and at the same time, they have to be receiving students in terms of apprenticeship programs. Then the other aspect is us at the level of a Science and Technology Ministry, we are leading the training part. So we left it open, but ensured that at the level of program, we did this approach. When we tested it after 2 years, we brought back all the stakeholders, and they were happy enough to say that with the approach we have, they think innovation should be led by the ministry responsible for higher education, so that at least it can take us to the much desired impact that we deserve.
Wow, that's an embedded model, eh? I like that. Thank you.
And just to say that the embedded model, because we are starting from scratch zero,
yeah,
we had to borrow from the curriculum of KNUST through a partnership, through the College of Science, Prof. Kwame and others.
Okay.
And then we had to reach out to a UK university which had also a very high edge on in terms of entrepreneurship. So we localize and contextualize. Thank you.
So hybrid, eh? You picked something good here, something good there. That's a clever one. Thank you. Yes, I'll come to you, please. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Abubakar Sambo from Nigeria.
Oh.
I'm a member of the African Union High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies. No doubt the three speakers from Gambia, Ghana, and Senegal have spoken very well.
Well.
Going by the title of this session, the talks of technology transfer and commercialization in Africa and Southern Asia, I was expecting to hear what is it that the Asians did, especially Japan, China, and South Korea, that should be brought to Africa as best practices for us also to move forward.
Exactly. Thank you. Definitely, we have to do justice to that. And other sessions, we will look at it. Thank you. Have you taken it from China?
Yeah, for
Ghana, I know.
For the want of time,
good.
We've seen within the IPR region, you know, you have what you call copyleft and copyright. There was copyleft in some Asian countries that we saw. There is no need to mention.
Okay.
But then also what we've seen is they leverage on technology transfer in terms of boosting their sectoral economies, especially in terms of GDP. If you look at most of our countries, even if we are supposed to look at the direct contribution of SMEs into our economies, most of it is not even documented. Then we come into a form challenges of data. What we have also seen is they've embraced IPR, but they ensured that it was done within the limitation of what was available at the time, not the stringent intellectual property rights wherein you only have to focus on patents. We have utility models. We can leverage on utility models. They are trade secrets. And who says we cannot generate even revenue from copyright? So these were aspects that we, in terms of the literature, we've seen the Asian tigers leverage on to ensure that they support the actors within the intellectual property ecosystem.
All right. I have 9 minutes and the conversation is getting quite interesting, but let's give opportunity. Let me go here. I will come back to you. Yes. Your name?
Thank you very much. My name is Gideon,
Okay.
and I'm from AUDA-NEPAD, so I don't know, Justina, if I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to add my voice, but I have 3 points. Beautiful conversation. You know, I have 3 schools, and mine is not question. I think that there are certain part of R&D that government should still continue doing and do it at scale. There are some research that are so risky that the private sector will never and ever endeavor to go into. So what am I saying? We still need more funding for the CSIRs of our countries, more funding. If you look at how the internet came to being, it wasn't private sector, it was purely led by the US government. Recent example, COVID-19. Who funded the vaccine? Not the private sector. The United States government put a lot of billions of dollars into the R&D funding company. So I'm of the view that internal revenue generation is important because currently the government got no funds, no money, and there is a mistrust between citizenry paying taxes and government dispensing. So that needs to be, we need to bridge that gap. If you look at what happened in Kenya, that is a typical example. So we need to find a way that we gain the trust of the citizenry so that everybody got a skin in the game. And then government can do what it does best by funding. So I believe we need to do that. So that's number 1. If you allow me, number 2, colleagues, we were having a conversation with Prof. Karim before the tea break. Innovation can happen everywhere, and I'm very skeptical talking in a room of professors. One area that we don't look at is the informal sector, and my colleague was alluding to the SME. We are not tapping into the informal sector. Large part of our economies is driven by the informal sector. We did a study in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Cameroon. We talked to a woman in Zimbabwe. This woman sells clothes, West African clothes. He comes here in Ghana, he goes to Senegal, has 3 houses, single mother, funded all 4 sons. One of them went to Cambridge. So you are looking at a woman with a grade 4 level of education who goes buy goods and services. Sometimes they take to the factory owner what kind of products. And I don't think that we are doing a lot in terms of learning. Most of the time when we talk about the informal sector, all we talk about is let's formalize them and give them ID. Well, they are going to run away. In fact, when we went to the market, they told us, are you from the government? If you are from the government, we are not talking to you. Right? So the problem is that there's a mistrust. So we need to learn from go to KJT market and look at the innovations happening there and see how can we use R&D to make it more value creation so that there will be more profit making. Very important. My last point is on data. I was part of a team that was setting, IBM has 2 centers, one in Nairobi, and they recently, 3 years ago, set up one in Johannesburg. Was part of the technical team that was setting up the one in Johannesburg. What is IBM doing in Africa? Marketing and sales. So what we said was that, no, we don't want you to come here and do marketing and sales. We want you to build us data centers. And we want to learn how to do these things ourselves. So teach us the skills on building data centers. And the AU policy framework is exactly that. That Facebook is capturing data of our citizenry. It has issues to do with sovereignty. We don't want Facebook to be selling us services. We want them to build data centers here so that we can also learn how to build these things and even how to build the chips that makes these data centers. So these are the critical issues when we go into negotiation tables we need to really look at. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Let me give you the opportunity. Let's give it to him. That's a clear input. Then I'll come back to the table and we finalize.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Michael Ejelu.
Okay, Doc, go ahead.
Past director of TCC.
Okay.
Now resting at home. I think the discussions we are having are they are very, very interesting. And apparently contributions have broached into the things I'm going to say. So I'll be very, very brief. If you are talking about Africa, let's talk from home first. And from home, I'm looking at the university, I'm looking at Ghana on the whole. We have policies in place. We are supposed to have regulatory machinery. Okay. But if we want to be a little bit practical here, we ask ourselves, what have we been doing and what are we doing? I think the first point that might align with what previous contributors have said is the direction. I think this cannot be overemphasized. Okay. We need national direction. I was privileged to be a policy fellow embedded in MESTI.
Okay.
And this is one of the things we discussed at length. And somehow you don't know what happens after all those discussions. Direction. I believe that if you have a ministry with such high caliber of people, they are capable of directing some of these things. Ghana has a lot of gray areas when it comes to research and development, when it comes to technology development. We have gray areas. We need direction. But you see, perhaps the problem is when they give direction, then they are also thinking about the funding. We cannot continue like this, just as our big man has said.
Yes.
You see, one entity that we need to focus on, maybe we need to consider, is the issue of the tech park. We have Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. We have allied bodies outside.
Okay.
And a lot of things are developed there. We started something like that with the government, and when the idea went, they said, "Oh, it's good. What has happened?" But these are the hubs that we create that will help develop the individuals and develop the capacities and develop the technologies.
And bring the ownership also.
Yes, bring the ownership.
Good.
I think these are things that need to be looked at. And perhaps because most of the things I've said, I want to echo and emphasize what the last speaker said. The informal sector. Mm-hmm. Swami Magazine is known to be the largest informal engineering sector in West Africa. Sure. And these are people with less education, but very entrepreneurial, very hardworking, and they try to use what they get. The investors sometimes want to partner with them, and sometimes when we go there, they are very welcoming.
Sure.
And I've heard government reps going there, and whenever they go, they become so much overwhelmed by what these people are doing.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, what happens? If we can mobilize these people very well, innovation is with them. And we can build on what they know, and we can come out with a whole lot of things.
Wow.
We don't need to go to China again. But it looks like we are bent on going to China. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give it to him. So what we are going to do, I'll go to our prof. Then if there's anyone online, fine. Else we come back to our panel. We give them some 1 minute to just run off. Thank you, Prof. Over to you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Very good discussion. One of the things we have seen for successful technology transfer program is, public institutions have a lot of technologies, you mentioned that, right? But in order for these programs to be successful, you need a very strong private sector. So you not only need a push factor where public institutions are trying, but you need also the pull factor. So I'm just curious, in your countries, how strong is the private sector? How is that pull working? But without that, you see, in the United States, the technology transfer programs are successful because you've got industry constantly demanding that. I'm just curious. And even in India, I'm originally from India, when I was a student, there were only 2 or 3 seed companies. Now there are about 400, 500 seed companies. And these seed companies are asking for new technologies, new innovations. So there is that pull factor. And most of the private sector in India was born from public sector.
Yeah.
So many times we say there is no private sector. Private sector has to be born. So this entrepreneurship program, I think we got a lot of books today, are very important to make that private sector stronger. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to get these technologies out, So I'm just curious to hear your perspective on how strong is that pull factor, and how do we create an enabling environment for the pull factor?
So you tell us what is happening in your country when it comes to the pull factor, the private sector strength, as well as even the public sector.
So thank you very much, Prof. You alluded in my presentation how there's the need to be able to involve the private sector right from the onset. So, for example, when you look at what pertains here in Ghana, we have seen some issues about government providing tax incentives. We have seen government looking at how you look at in terms of succession, how do we pick talents immediately from the universities right into the private sector. There has been some number of models. So, for example, you see Denmark, Unilever after model where they are able to pick. Even here in KNUST, I know the KNUST Innovation Hub that they have here, Mr. Kwame and his team, which they are doing linkages to Swami, as has been spoken about. You see that that linkage is there. But I think one of the challenges has been about how does government been able to woo private sector to actually put in much money in terms of support on critical areas of R&D that is able to support technology transfer. That is what is not very strong. And so, yes, of course, there are some private sector who want to go into R&D in certain areas. We see them most of the time in some of, let's say, certain sectors. Let's say oil and gas, upstream, petroleum industry, and some other areas. But then when it comes to some of the things that to be able, the very core things we need as a country, that to be able to drive technology transfer part, the presence has not been there. And you see the challenges having to be with how the enabling environment has been there, but then the thing that government needs to do more in terms of providing some incentives, make their work quite flexible. How do they go in terms of the cost overheads on quite a number of things that they have been doing. So those are some of the challenges that we have here as a country in Ghana. Then, of course, Professor Nimako talks about the fact that even though there are certain areas of research that requires that government must still continue to lead in those areas. And one of the lessons has been that if you look at the Asia and all those things, there is deliberate attempts by governments, the states, to be able to put in much funding to look at the talents, how do they take out talent, the succession itself, and also to ensure that even professors are not only interested in the teaching or the research aspect, but then they themselves, you see that they're forming some companies where they are even incubators, and they are able to take students, they train them, so they are both practical oriented, they are both research, and they also know what exactly, because there's direction in terms of what government wants so far as technology transfer and commerce. So this is one of the things that I think I pick out from our in Asia, how they are able to drive some of the challenges. So this is what I want to say from the perspective of the country.
Can you add your take-home message?
Oh, my take-home message is that we have seen that despite the fact that some progress have been made, there's more work than needed. And I think the issue about the direction, the issue about how do we ensure that what is existing, make it work, to make it more effective, rather than trying to, anytime we see new things, then we jump at them, and also trying to contextualize them in a way that should bring up the effectiveness as far as technology transfer and innovation is concerned. One key thing is about the issue of awareness and how we communicate some of those things, so that there are times we assume that when somebody is in academia, somebody is in policy, then he knows certain things. But the basic things, how do you even approach the person, look at targeted engagements, and how we tend to be able to let people know about some of the things that we are doing. For all like this, you've seen how useful it has been. So I think we need to look at continuing this and being able to look at mechanisms of enhancing stakeholder engagement and discussions in these particular areas. Thank you.
Great. Prof, the private sector strength over there, the pull strategy, and the public. Then you add your take home. Thank you.
Yeah, if we take the case in Senegal, Senegal is doing well when this come into fintech.
Okay.
Yeah, the young are developing startups and so on. But when you come to, for example, technology that coming out from research, I could say that it's really difficult in the landscape of Senegal, while there is no support from the government in terms of research funding. So you could imagine what will be the outcome. And researchers are, as I said earlier, are depending on international agencies to tackle their challenges. So yeah, it gives that what is given.
Yeah.
So I think what I could take home is that is exactly what I said at the beginning. We need to find direction for the continent. The continent is not heading anywhere. We don't have a direction, I could say. I'm sorry for our officials to say this. We have to dream big. If it comes to buy a car, all of us we drive big cars.
Yeah.
But we have to dream big for this continent. We need dream big project for the continent, big challenges. We know our challenges to design a project for this continent. That is exactly what is lacking. We don't have a vision of our challenge. Where are we taking the next step of this continent? The Agenda 2060 is there. The ideas are bright, but there's no project to implement. And this is where things have been. And the scientists are here. We have the capital. The human capital is here. We have very good curriculums. If we take our students, take them to the United States, take them to Europe, they will compete with those students that they found there. But when they graduate, they won't come back here, because the situation in terms of research and technology development is lacking. So our officials, our authorities, our policies need to take big projects for the continent. So let us dream big for our direction. Thank you.
Ah, wonderful. So let's hear from the Gambia. What strategy is working over there? How strong is the private sector? And the pull strategy of thoughts?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of partnerships with the private sector, it's twofold. One, in relation to the delivery of academic programs, and then also after, in terms of the the industrial aspect. So in terms of the academic program, we were able to work with private sector to incorporate the informal sector in our education and training. So we had to review our national qualifications framework to factor in those people who didn't get the right, I cannot say right skills, who didn't get the certificates. Yeah. So what we are doing is the recognition of prior learning, so that once you are able to manifest that you have the skill and you have the desire to be enrolled in an education program, with that partnership we were able to have them enroll in any TVET institution or in any technical university in terms of doing courses and programs that can lead to employability and business creation. Then the other aspect is when it comes to the current education levy that we have, because the education levy, the biggest financier is the private sector, because it's from their turnover is where we are giving them.
Okay.
So in terms of bringing them together to support the sector, we've established with them what you call sector skills councils. So what these sector skills councils do is, in terms of reviewing the academic programs, it is done based on sector. ICT will have a sector wherein not everyone could be represented, but they do it based on rotation.
Okay.
So they review the curriculum in terms of ICT. They decide in terms of how the industrial placements will be done within the ICT industry. Health will do the same, operating within their own policies. So we were able to engage them based on that. Where we are having the challenge is the issue of funding projects emanating from private sector. Because most of the time they will come and with brilliant ideas, but because there is no funding, and this is why we have currently put in place the National Research Innovation Fund, for which also them as entrepreneurs and business developers, they have the equal opportunity to apply and get grants to scale up what they are doing.
Wow. So you add your take-home message.
So the take-home here is, since we've identified 3 things: funding, institutional arrangements, and also prioritizing, we will say that the take-home is let's prioritize. Let's not pick everything at the same time. Let's look at our priorities and think big, like my brother have said.
Yes.
Then the other aspect is, where not applicable, institutions can embrace what you call the institutional policies in terms of intellectual property, in terms of research, so that we guide. Because I have seen instances where if you don't have these policies, you have entrants from different corners. They come with projects that are supposed to come into the university, because the university is the substrate. If researchers are coming and nothing is staying in the university to build it up and makes it resilient for future projects, then it is going to be challenging. And we can only address that using clear-cut policies that can guide the procedures and operations. Then the other aspect is in terms of communication. Since we've all said here we have different actors that I referred to earlier here as different cooks within the ecosystem, it will be good for us to have lead agencies that will bring in all actors, and then we can all push towards the same direction of ensuring we have impact and see technology-driven economies and institutions within the region. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the take-home, as we sum them, they are all talking about direction, ownership, funding source. I'm sorry. Well, please allow one opportunity. Okay, add your voice.
Okay, thank you very much, panelists. Thank you for the opportunity. You're all doing well. But let's take a look at what is really happening within the institutions. From our analysis there, the problem seems to be the same from this country to this country to that country. Now, another question is, what are we doing? to solving those problems. Because we can't continue to do the same old things and expect a different result. Excuse me. We need to have a paradigm shift from how we were to how we want it done. Life is moving. There's a great scholar that said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep in motion, you must keep riding. Failure, to some academicians or academians, or as it's called, is not the opposite of success, but it could be a starting point when you persist to remain as a failed man or woman. Our research institutions have engaged a professor in charge of Academic Staff Union of Nigeria in one of our programs when he was calling in for academic freedom and university autonomy. And he made mention of a premier university in the southern part of Nigeria, said in most of their science laboratories, they are using stove instead of the Bunsen burner, as it were. Please, for scientists and researchers, tell me the findings between the pressure from the stove and the Bunsen burner, are they the same? So that means that the research outcome, compared to what its counterpart will have in the US, in other Western countries, is going to be different. So using the same old approach to get something different. I quote again, our heart is like parachute. It only functions when it's open. Imagine the parachute coming without opening. If you don't open our hearts for newer things, to embrace technology, the likes of our late great mind, Professor Calestous Juma, had carefully looked at. The least country in Africa here is just about 50 years. Nigeria will be celebrating about 64 years. The question is, where have we attained? What have we achieved? Series of beautiful policies. There is the yearly science expo. And the question is there follow-up? One of our panelists here said the distance. Is there follow-up? Year in, year out. Young entrepreneurs bring in their innovations. And where they bring them up? Will they follow them up to see how it is tomorrow and afterwards? Or the next year again, they open another chapter, there's another expo. And you keep coming without taking a leap from where you are. Is it equally true that our researchers from our research institutions are lying in the archives of their drawers and their laptops? Because if there's a step up, there should be addition from addition. Else, the likes of what we are enjoying today in Europe and America, we ought not to have enjoyed them because they had kept them in the archives. So we need to take a leap. And that leap starts from here. For those that are in the institutions, for those that are scientists, but of course, it's not only science, adding value and taking it a step further. My focal person, Professor Junena Mafi, will always tell you, they are carouseller, or the person that sells beans, cake. Yeah. The idea of mixing what she does, grinding the beans, adding it's part of innovation. Sure. How you take it a step further, now this is a subject of your idea to transform something from nothing. Thank you very much, my brother.
Let's give a clap of praise to ourselves. We have all done well. We've really made a huge contribution that we strongly believe that it starts from here. Like he rightly said, almost all we are talking about from Gambia to Senegal to Ghana, beyond, we are still echoing one thing. And I strongly believe that by the end of this conference, there should be a direction, and it starts from here. Once again, I want to thank you for your time and giving us the opportunity to share with you, and also moderating on behalf of the Director General. As we are living here, I will only stand to stretch, and one Dr. Calestous will take over as we move quickly to the next session before we go for our lunch break. On that note, we'll say thank you, and let's give a clap of praise to our panel members. So Dr. Calestous will come, and the panel for the presentation will also be here. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to session 3. My name is Kalista Rakhmatov, and I am a global network specialist at Michigan State University, and I'll be moderating this session. This session will focus on best practices and policies related to technology transfer and commercialization. And there's a lot of experience in technology transfer and commercialization all over the world in various sectors, like health, agriculture, environment, et cetera. And to share their diverse experience, we have 2 distinguished speakers in this session. The third one, I guess, got called to a meeting, so maybe he'll join us later. First up, we have Dr. Egan Soman, oh gosh, I practiced it. Somasturano. From Tamil Nadu Agricultural University in India. And we have Dr. Kareem Meridia from Michigan State University. And I realize that we are standing between you and lunch, so we are going to try to shorten everything a little bit. So each panelist will have 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes for questions. So yes, I will keep track of the time, and so first, Dr. Egan. He has a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. I am Somasundaram from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University, Coimbatore, that is in the southern part of India. Prima facie, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Professor Kareem and Dr. Kalista for giving this opportunity and being all the time in connect with me and guiding me to come over here in a short span of time. Thank you so much, sir, for your kindness and also this facility to me. My dear the dignitaries on the dais and also my dear brothers and sisters sitting on the dais. Nice greetings from India. Of course, 2 of my friends have also come from India. So my job is to share the success stories and best practices that are being followed in India for transferring the technology and commercialization of the technologies for the to generate the revenue and also upstand on the income of the country. What we are having the experience, I would like to share some of the experience of the models and also the practices that are followed globally. Starting from the GATT agreement, followed by Global Earth Summit and World Trade Organization, the genesis of IPR and technology has come into existence globally, and the work done by the University of Michigan and also the Stanford Office of Technology Licensing, OTL, that is now we call it as the previous forum, also they told about Silicon Valley, and also some of the Office of Innovation and the models that are being followed globally, the triple helix model. So that seems to be a very successful one based on my analysis I did. For want of time, I am not going into detail. That is the university industry and government relations. So that seems to be a successful networking model, successful for transfer of technology. So now in this session, I'm going to highlight the best practices and success stories of our premier institute in the field of agriculture, that is Indian Council of Agriculture Research, the governing authority of teaching, research, and also outreach in the country, how the technology is being commercialized, and success stories of my own university in promoting technology commercialization, and the technologies available for commercialization under CJED, that is a Global Consultative Group on International Agriculture Research. One such body is placed at India, that is ICRISAT, International Center for Research in Semi-Arid Tropics, and other national institutes in India. So our policymakers, 60 decades back, they have observed the global development, especially in the developed countries like US and Europe, that the premier institutions, economic institutions can play a significant role in developing the technology and needy things for the community. So they just simulated the technologies from US and Europe, and they developed the premier institutes in the country, the visionary leaders of India, that is IITs and IIMs, that is Indian Institute of Technology and Indian Institute of Management. Therein, now that institutes are playing a significant role in developing lot of improvised technologies, that is smart technologies and digital technologies that are very much useful in India. Even though I'm an agricultural scientist, I can quote some of the examples. If anybody want to book a hotel or book a ticket in India, as a cohesive phenomena, the hotel booking and food, everything will be taken care of as a chain of event by simply a simple app developed by the IITians. So that we call it as OYO. That similarly for booking a taxi, it may be a taxi or it may be a two-wheeler, or it may be in future somebody will be carrying a person by logging into the app, I feel so. So that much the facilities have come in hand. So let us see one by one the best practices. So you see the ICAR model for installation technology commercialization pathway. What they do is universities or state agricultural universities or the institutions are doing the research by getting the funds from the government or based on the need analysis of the industries. So in India, we are following one good thing based on the previous session panelists. I want to say something, but want of time. Professor Karim sir also told, want to say anything. What I want to say is, we have in our country a setup called CSR, that is the social responsibility of the companies, corporate social responsibility we call. So through that, they are having some provision for funding. So whenever we talk about entrepreneurship, the first and foremost thing that comes into our mind is cash or finance. So the financial aspect is being addressed by, very well through this CSR component in India. So they have the agenda, or they will give funding for development of the country or developing any innovations. So through that, the research is being taken care of and invention disclosure is being taken care of, and we have a committee to scrutinize and approve, and IP protection will automatically come, and the technology disclosure happens through various steps. Then technology is evaluated and validated by the academic institutions to develop the strategy, and we have the product licensing, and in turn, long run for sustenance of the system, we have royalty system also. So if the technology needs any further incubation or strengthening the proof of concept or prototype, we have a team of scientists or mentors identified for each university so that they will give the hand-holding support, and later on the technology is validated and then commercialized. So this is in nutshell, things are happening. Say for example, the ICR agro-technology, we have three-tier technology management mechanism. So at the national level, we have IP and Technology Management Center, wherein all these innovative technologies that are patentable or that needs some close monitoring, we have that cell. And zonal level, we have zonal technology management, business planning and development units, as some of the delegates also suggested. to have such networking or platforms in Africa also. And third, we have the institutional level management unit to take care of. So that we develop the guidelines for IPR and technology transfer commercialization as a unique and a common document for the entire country. So that are being adopted without any hassle or any problems. Legally it is taken care of, and we call it as a green book. So I suggest at this point to develop a green book for Africa also, even though there are so many diversifications are there, so all should come together and develop that green book. Second one, we have the in ICR system, the academia are not involved in technology transfer. We give it to an agency called Agri-Innovate India Limited, a company of the ICR, wherein they are just, what they do is, they bring the uniformity in process, create one-stop solution for wider reach and access, and they are also indemnifying the organization. So they often, time to time, develop a book that shows what are all the technologies available, what are all patented, what are all the things having the IPR protection, and what also the non-patented things for validation and evaluation, scrutiny. So institutionalizing and centralizing technology commercialization is the first step. They do it, and know-how and technology transfer is being done through a lot of things. We have the facility of more than 100 state agricultural universities and ICR institutes together in our country. So what we do is, the institute level technology management units will cater all this and converge and also aggregate all the technologies. And if it is intellectually need to be protected, that technology management unit at each headquarter will take care of that. And later on it comes to the Agri-Innovate India network, and that technologies will be licensed out on non-exclusive basis, because we do all the research and other things using the government money and also using the private sector. So it is the taxpayers' money that is being used. So we sell it on non-exclusive basis, not exclusive to anyone. For pre-specified period, maybe 3 years or 5 years, we form memorandum of agreement and then our MOU to proceed with. So Agri-Innovate so far has started in the year April 2018 and has transferred over 175 technologies for about 67 million INR till date. So this is the information. So the services what they are providing by that that networking Agri-Innovate is one-stop shop for market-ready agricultural technologies and domestic and foreign. These turnkey projects they are handling, consultancy mode, capacity building, and technology evaluation and pricing. So these are the things. And priority areas they are focusing is seed consortium. That is any new variety that is hybrid developed by the university, it will go to the Agri-Innovate, then automatically who is interested, the region wise or the country wide will be taken care. And bio-based agri inputs also, they say for example biopesticides, biofertilizers, nanotechnology has come in a big way in India, and we have having the nano urea, nano DAP, all these fertilizers into nano form. So the bulkiness has come and price has come down, is handy also. And animal husbandry sector, we have diagnostics, vaccines, feed and nutritional products are being developed. We are very sound in value addition, that is post-harvest value-added products. I will show some of the examples. And small and marginal farmers occupy the major share in India, more than 80%, whatever may be the state. Say for example, in Tamil Nadu, 82% are small and marginal farmers. We cannot make all the fragmented lands and also the mindsets of the farmers into pool. So we develop customized agricultural tools to suit the land holdings, implements and machinery. And biotechnological products also, protocols we have developed and molecular markers and also GMO detection, everything we are doing. These are the priority areas. And submission of technology and disclosure form and costing sheet, it is available online. So the Techno-Commercial Assessment Committee meeting is being based on the need, it is conducted, and we upload the standard and other things. And if any company is giving a letter of interest or expression of interest, then they will be called for discussion and the committee will finalize the price for it and for the product licensing, and also royalty will be fixed based on the turnover, maybe 2% or 3% based on the company. So it is not a fixed one based on the company or the firm that approach, it will be varying. So this technology transfer process has also the due diligence, trade approval, legal vetting, everything, and so on and so forth. And revenue sharing is also being fixed by institute-wise. Agri-Innovate has 70% goes to the institute for doing the research, 20% to the Agri-Innovate, and 10% to the ICR network. So these technologies on non-exclusive basis being transferred, upfront a license fee has to be given. So I have shown the map how this is functioning countrywide through ICR institutions, and the incubation centers are also in the loop to support this process. And nowadays, it is in the era of startup. The startup is the idea, that is innovative idea that can be made into a financial one that is being promoted in a big way by our country, statewide and also central-wide. We have the Startup India program, wherein the open access platform is there. There are about more than 1,000 mentors are available in different fields of specialization. So one is interested to become a startup, he can go through that process, and also model available. Later on, he will be attached to the incubation forums for nourishing and validating their ideas. So these are some of the startup entrepreneurs from Hyderabad, Bhavani Biochemicals. For want of time, I am not going in detail. This PowerPoint is available. Anybody who wish to have this, you can take and have the discussion. So IIHR, Indian Institute of Horticulture Research, has come up with a lot of successful ventures. So natural crop care and agri-bio solutions. So they start, the objective of state agricultural universities and in our new educational policy also to create a 4 to 5 level steps. First year, 1 year course, he will become an entrepreneur with a certificate. 2 years, he will have the diploma. If he is interested to continue the 3rd year, pre-degree program. 4th year, he will become a degree holder. 5th year, master degree holder. Like that, our system has developed in such a way that to nourish and take care of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So these are some of the good examples. Pluck Fresh. And when I come to the my university, how we are promoting, we have many incubation forums. Any immature idea will just put them, the student or the school dropout or the graduates from other disciplines, or the farmers, more particularly major share is from the farmer side. An innovative farmer with a very crude idea will be put in as a member into the incubation system. We have different incubation systems, 7 or 8 in our university, distributed in different agroclimatic zones of India, because India is with more diversity, starting from saffron to this cassava. We have more than 192 major food crops are being grown in India. We are blessed with that facility, that is the weather and climate. So similar I could see in Africa also. So the first step is to validate the idea, to make it as a, if it is an innovative one, need patenting, and that we are doing. And also we are also promoting the GI, that is geographical indicated things, that will bring, that will fetch a huge value in the global platform. So some of the grapes, some of the fruits, some of the foodstuffs, they are more specific and ethnic. We are promoting and then exporting. We are having export consortium also to promote all these things. As we had in the information in the morning discussion, this copyright, trademark, all these are being supported by the incubation forums. The incubation forums are having the facility for training, capacity building, open discussion, business dialogue rooms, analytical laboratory for validating the products or the process, and conference hall. Oh, these are the things. So far, we have commercialized more than 72 technologies to a tune of more than $1 million US. So the number of firms involved. So how we can attract the private firms? If we are having the technology that suits their requirement, then automatically the corporate and also the firms will come into our desk. So we have the research output of student scientists. We have the research agenda. Recently we are having a research forum. So all the scientists who may be specialized in some of the sectors cannot do the research of their interest. only based on the research need of the companies and also the policy makers, and also that is the agenda we are having for 3 years, 5 years as a vision documents. So every 5 years the vision document is being prepared based on the political need of the country, and we work on that, for which they are also giving funding to a certain extent. So we have the director of research. We do concurrently patented and non-patented things for research. So we support for developing the technology and finally commercializing. So these are all the hybrids and machineries and tools we have commercialized. It is available not only for the Indian farmers or Indian people, it is available for globally. So at this juncture I would like to express, with the concurrence of the university, we are very happy to associate with any of the technical universities, especially agricultural universities in Africa. We can sign MOU and we can share all the technologies at a very minimal cost by getting the permission of the government of India. So these are the management technologies available for commercialization. Many things are very innovative. Even for quote an example, the coconut wastewater that comes out of matured coconut, that water can be converted into a gel or a therapeutic medicine by adding some of the microorganism, so that by gelatinization process, so it will, without creating a bandage or applying any antibiotics, that gel application itself will cure many of the wounds and cuts. So that is, to quote an example I am telling. And another interesting thing, how our startups are being nourished and technology is taken. So when the honeybee bites a person, ejecting the venom, it will die. That is a natural process. I hope the people working in that area may agree. One of our startups have developed a technology through which he has created small, small square-like shaped tool. So that is hanging aside of the honeybee box. When the bee comes, a slight current, microvolt current is passed, so that it will eject the venom, and that will be collected, and it will flew happily without dying. So such a wonderful technology our students have developed in BTech courses. So through that, instead of getting a good revenue from honey, through the collection of the honey venom, 1 gram cost global market, 80,000 rupees. I don't know, it is nearly $1,000. So that much value. So honey may, the income from honey may be $100 to $200, but through venom, that is neuromedicine. So these are some of the things I would like to share. And our students have developed a single plant through which 10 or 12 vegetables can be grown in a single pot. This layering technology and also grafting technology. So for want of time, I am not going in detail. These are all the technologies developed and commercialized so far, and that has been taken by the companies or the agro firms for further commercialization in a big scale. So a big list is available in our website. You can refer our TNIU website. It is more than 6 million pages. So if you start reading, it will take more than 1 year to complete. So these are the technologies. I'm not going in detail. These are the varieties. So for commercialize, we do this process by signing an MOU or memorandum of agreement with the companies. If there are more companies are coming forward on a non-exclusive basis, we share the cost. The cost is fixed based on a part of the research expenses that we met for developing the technology and cost of the manpower. It's not exorbitant one. We may give it starting from $100 to $10,000, like that, right? So we feel that it is the responsibility of the academic institution or higher education institute to give back to the society. That is why whatever that is in the box, that is in the research outcome box, that will be immediately taken to the for application through this technology transfer process. So these are all some of the examples, and I can quote a lot of our students turned entrepreneurs doing marketing in more than 80 countries in the world by sending the organic products or the millets or the nutraceuticals. You see, this company is a one-drop solution company, wherein 1 ton of tulsi or the herbal thing or the turmeric is turned into 1 liter through technology, deep technology. And a drop is enough. If you put a drop into hot water, then it will become a turmeric tea. No need for doing all these our traditional things. That is how the deep technology is playing. Another thing is we have the retard packaging technology, a 7-layered packaging technology. So whatever you cook, a delicious thing, you put it inside and then pack it through a series of machineries. Then if you cut open, it will be for, you can keep it for 12 hours, otherwise for 2 years. 2 years. When your wife is going out of your home or country, you ask her to cook a huge volume, make it into a packet and then keep it open table, and you can deliciously eat every day. That is the advantage. That much technologies have come into force, so we are having that. And eat and greet, so 5 p.m. what is the food required, nutritious thing, 3 p.m. because when we are free, we tend to eat more. So not 3 sessions or 2 sessions, multiple sessions. So that technology, so nutritious and non-chemical, non-synthetic or any additive or preservatives, nowhere preservatives are being used in our incubators. We have 2,000 plus functional incubators. Once in 3 years they will get matured and a new batch will come. So no preservatives, no synthetic vinegar or ascorbic acid, etc. are being used. Only deep technology is being used. That is why globally our products are getting the importance and momentum. So these are the technologies commercialized to different countries, and these are the technologies by our ICR institutions, simple, low cost and no cost, and only the technology based things, and lot of snacks, products, everything. This is a NIPTM. Everywhere we are having, like IIT and IIM, I told you, this National Institute for Technology and also Entrepreneurship Management has come to support the small people. They can just approach, see what is happening, and then take the technology by observation and get the capacity building and start preparing. So for example, tomato is getting wasted because it is a perishable, and 1 rupees to 100 rupees will be the cost in an year in India. What they do is they develop the sauce, puree, and also other products, value-added products. Mobile vans have come. The major crops they are addressing through mobile vans, so that the farmer with 100 kg or 10 kg can use the facility for half an hour to 1 hour to prepare the perishable, non-perishable things from the perishable to prolong the shelf life. These are all the technologies available. I told about this retard packaging, and also the IIMR, Indian Institute of Millet Research, have come out with a lot of millet based. Africa is a home for millet, so you can just take the technologies at a cheaper cost, or having the MOU with Tamil Nadu Agriculture University or the Indian Institute of Millet Research. Very well, you can simulate the technology, not to need to develop and do a research and develop a technology. It can be, because everything globalized. You want to have one Africa, then it will be a good solution to do so. It's a wonderful slide. Thanks for the opportunity. If anything to be asked, I'm ready to.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Wide variety of innovations, and it looks like your system is very well developed and organized. So with that, Dr. Kareem.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to hear the India's experience, right? 72 technologies commercialized by a university, generating $1 million, yeah? Very strong. So in India, there are about 75 or more agricultural universities, and if you go to any university, they have technology transfer and commercialization program. And then there are 90 research institutions for agriculture, and every one of them has some program related to this. So amazing experience. Hope all of you get to interact with Dr. Somach Sundaram. He's traveled all the way from Coimbatore, which is in southern India. So thank you for coming and sharing. Yeah, they are one of the 5 top prominent universities in India. So what I'm going to do is share experience of Michigan State University. We are also actively engaged in technology transfer and commercialization. So I will quickly go through, and then we can open up for discussion. So we are a public university in the United States, and we are referred as a land-grant university. Many of you may have heard the word land-grant university. The land-grant universities were established where the government granted land to each of the states, to establish one university for what they call common people, yeah? So we were the first land-grant university. We call it ourselves premier land-grant university in the United States. So each state has at least one land-grant university, yeah? And the mission of the land-grant universities as a public universities is very simple, like any other universities here in Ghana or other countries here in Africa, is as a university we are advancing knowledge, generating new knowledge, and then because of this land-grant mission, everything that we do, we have eye towards application, transforming lives, the lives of the people in the state of Michigan where we come, where we work, and the citizens of the United States, and also the citizens of the world. So those of you who have not been to Michigan, this is where we are located in the northeast corner of the United States, very bordering Canada. And we are, the state of Michigan is like an island, yeah? We are surrounded by big lakes, yeah? So crops and fruits and horticulture and all that, and fisheries is a big thing, yeah? And where I put S, that's where we are located, yeah? So we are in the northeast corner, temperate area. So most of the crops that we grow are the crops that are grown in the temperate region. So as a land-grant university, our mission is threefold. Like any other universities, we do teaching, we do research, but the third part, the extension and outreach, that's part of the land-grant mission is whatever we do, whatever knowledge we generate, information or technologies we generate, we share with stakeholders. We are different from Harvard universities and MIT and Stanford. They do mostly, they will do teaching, they do research, they commercialize things, but that extension mandate is unique to land-grant universities. So in the state of Michigan, we have 83 districts, or we call counties. In every county of the state of Michigan, we have a presence. So whatever knowledge is generated from the university is transferred to the communities there. Now in the globalized world, our presidents and our leadership is referring us not only as a land-grant university, but we are becoming a world-grant university, yeah? So as a part of that world-grant mission, our coming here is part of that we are serving the global community. So we were founded in 1855 as a small college of agriculture. But over the period of 170 years, we have been transformed into a very comprehensive university. So we have 16 or so colleges now, College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, where I and Dr. Calestous work, is the founding college of the university. So now, but having these other colleges is a big advantage for us. So our students can go to engineering college or business college or law college and take classes. So we have moved beyond just agriculture and food. As a public university, we were started in 1855. At that time, we were getting most of our 90 to 100% of the funding was coming from the government, from the state government and from the national government. Now, the funding from government is steadily declining. So how do we support 11,000 staff and faculty working? We have 51,000 students. So we have diversified sources of funding. And one of the sources of funding is our technology transfer program through licensing of our technologies. But we get very diverse source of funding like many other universities. So our scientists in College of Agriculture and Natural Resources, they develop a lot of new technologies, new varieties, pest monitoring tools, diagnostic tools, vaccines and animal feed and farm equipments and so on, yeah? So at the university, we have two types of technology transfer system. One is the traditional extension system, where knowledge and technologies are given to stakeholders through the extension system free. But along with that extension system, we now have established a new system that was started in 1992. As the funding from the government was declining, the university administration wanted to also look at technology transfer as a source of revenue. And so they established Michigan State University, we call Innovation Center. So as a public university, you may ask question, what do we do with the technology that we generate? So first is, as a land grant mission, as a public university, we give it away free, yeah? We try to give it away free. The second one, starting with the Innovation Center, we protect our intellectual property and licensed technologies through agreements. The third option that we have is a bargaining chip. So let's say if UNCST has a technology and we have a technology and both of us need each other, so we bargain, we exchange that, yeah, through agreements. The fourth one is our university policy allows that you can be a professor or you can be a staff member, but also you can be a business person. You can establish a company from the innovation or invention, you do that, yeah? Of course, there are specific guidelines to do that so that there is no conflict of interest. And the last option, the fifth option is do nothing. Many of our professors, they will have technology, they will keep it in their office. They don't want to give it to anybody, right? You can't do anything, right? Every professor is free. So they will keep it there. And so we do all of this, yeah? All of this. So the intellectual property protection and technology transfer United States, what gave the really drive is this law that came in 1980. You can look at, I've put a link also there. It's called Bayh-Dole Act. Two senators from two parties, Republican, Democratic parties, they came together and came up with this Bayh-Dole Act, which gave public institutions and universities and non-profit organizations rights to retain the title to invention. So before 1980, anything that was funded by the government retained the ownership. But after this law, the government did not retain the ownership. It's the universities and research institutions retained the ownership. So this was a big thing. So I think as you are looking forward, you need to have some kind of a policy or law, not exactly like Bayh-Dole Act, but something like that, that would allow your universities and public institutions to retain ownership and then move forward. So Michigan State University, in response to this Bayh-Dole Act, we have established Michigan State University Innovation Center. And this Innovation Center has 3 divisions. First division is MSU Technologies. Second division is MSU Business Connect. The third division is Spartan Innovation. So Michigan State University, we have our mascot, our teams are known as Spartans, yeah? Spartans were the Greek warriors, so we want all of our students and graduates become like Spartans. So we have these 3 offices. So the MSU Technologies office helps in protection of intellectual properties and licensing of. So if somebody wants to file a patent or copyright or trademark, they can go to the MSU Technologies office. The second office, and I mentioned about private sector, that's why I was asking. We have an office, we call it MSU Business Connect, and they are our window to the private sector. So they connect our faculty members, our staff, our students to the private industry, and also connect private industry to when they see the opportunities. So if some company will come and want to give us money, we cannot take the money like that. We have to go through the MSU Business Connect office. And they make sure that there is no conflict of interest and that universities will benefit from this. And then the third one is those technologies or innovations that are coming out, we want to encourage our faculty, our staff, our students to form new companies, startup companies, so that we have that. Along with that, the university has launched a minor course, what they call. So for example, students have a major, they could be majoring in engineering or computer science or biology or physics or entomology or whatever. They get their degree in that. But along with that, they have an option to have a minor in entrepreneurship. So that option is available. We want all 51,000 students, regardless of which college or department they are, we want all of them to become entrepreneurs. So this is our model. This is the Innovation Center. So what is our policy, intellectual property policy? The policy is very simple. Any new invention developed using university funds and facilities are the property of the university. And then we have a policy, I just put a link there. And then the royalties that are income that is generated from licensing of these technologies, they are shared with the scientists, with the professors or the students, whoever invented, yeah? There is a formula of sharing this royalty. So when we license a technology, first $100,000, 50% of that is given to the scientist or the staff or the student who invents that. 50%, yeah? The next level, the share of the inventor goes down, but then the remaining 50% is shared with the departments or the college and also retained at the university level. So at the university level, they have created a foundation, MSU Foundation. So the money that going to the university is put into the foundation, MSU Foundation, and then they are the ones who support new research programs and so on. We were talking about funding. So there is an enabling environment for there are incentives for the scientists to develop the technology, but also universities continually supporting research and development programs. So I wrote a book, and my book is not the bestseller, but it generates about $75 or $100 royalty. So first $5,000, 100% is given to the scientist or the inventors. University doesn't keep any money. So there is an incentive for the professors to do work, yeah? So this is a big one. So one example of technology that we have commercialized is we grow cherries. I don't know if you have eaten cherry fruits, yeah, temperate, this is. So one of our breeder went to Hungary and brought these cherry varieties. So we protected this using trademark. You can protect it through patents, copyrights, trademarks, and so on. We protected it through a trademark called Balaton. Balaton is a lake, name of a lake in Hungary. And then we signed a licensing agreement, and now under that agreement, whenever a cherry tree is sold by any nursery, we license it to a private nursery that makes this. So whenever the nursery sells any cherry tree, whatever royalty Michigan State University gets, 50% of it is given it to a Hungarian institution. So see, there is a value like that. If you have a proper policy and a proper agreement, everyone can benefit. So Hungarian Institute benefits, Michigan State University benefits, the company benefits, and our consumer, our citizens are getting good variety of cherry, which is nice and sweet, yeah? So this is one example I just put. Another, one of our breeder for blueberry, which is also a big crop in Michigan, they developed varieties and they have done licensing now all over the world, you know, on blueberries. So the technology commercialization support system is, our focus is doing both basic research and applied research, but everything that we do, we have an eye on application because of our land grant mission. And we license technologies to industry, both small companies and also big companies, yeah? And industry is the one that commercializes. We don't commercialize technology, it's the private sector that commercializes, and we receive royalties based on the terms of the license. And the university provides support to faculty members for business plan development, market assessment, incubation, and so on, everything that Dr. Somasundran was also describing. So there is a system to support them. And MSU policy allows faculty to form their own companies. So in the United States, the technology transfer is successful, and even in India, is because it's these three pillars. The government provides funding, and government makes the policies and regulations. Academia, we do a lot of basic research, and also we do training and education, but it's the industry that takes this, scales up, commercializes, and then markets that. So it's these three groups working together is the key to the success. Unless you have these three pillars working together, technology transfer program will not be successful. So when we look at industry and university, the university's goal is what? The driving force is public good, right? We want to develop something, share, and things. But the industry, they only have one word in their dictionary, is a profit, right? I think the entities with two different goals and mission, they can come together, they can partner and benefit from each other. And also the broader society also benefits. So our faculty have started many companies. I just listed many companies here. I won't go into detail. I'm not really deep into some of these. But one example is a company that's a food safety company that makes food safety diagnostic kits that was formed in 1982 based on the technology generated from the university. And this company has become a multinational company, now located in more than 100 countries around the world, and is one of the fastest growing companies, and everybody wants safe food, right? So the tools and technologies used for detection of these pathogens and so on are really becoming globally important. So there's a very successful example. And they're located next to the campus. We go and visit them. We take our students there. Everything that we do, we also not only engage faculty, but also students are engaged. I think Dr. Somasundaran also mentioned the students are engaged. I would like to humbly request here that students should be engaged. I wish there were some students here in this room. If we can invite some students so that they can hear and learn and benefit, because they are the future leaders, you know. Many of our new startup companies are formed by students who are graduating. These young minds, they have a different vision and they take things forward. We organize a lot of training programs on technology transfer and so on. We have done that number of programs that bring people from all over the world to learn basically from our experience. So one of the big questions is what drives this culture of innovations? We are a public university. We are supposed to give everything free. We have this system of now MSU Innovation Center and extension system. What drives this culture of innovation? So I've listed 4 things. One is our faculty, our staff and students, they have academic freedom and a lot of flexibility. And failing is accepted. If you look at, I don't know the experience in India or here, but in the United States, every 10 startup companies, maybe 2 or 3 are successful. If 2 or 3 are successful, that's a big success, you know. So failing is accepted. Even if somebody fails, okay, you learn from that failure and you look at positively and then change that. So that's first one. Second is there is an institutional support for innovators. The university has created a system that provides support for incentives are there. The Michigan State University Foundation is there. There are projects that support. So there is that institutional support is there. Third one is a big one, is the incentives. So those innovators who are coming up with new innovations that have potential for licensing and generating revenues, there is an incentive for them. And by the way, some technologies is not only just one scientist, the whole team can benefit. They can share the royalties that we have one technology that was invented. It is related to cancer treatment. It was not invented in medical school. It was invented in some another department where faculties were doing some experiments and they saw the cells were getting longer, not dividing, and somebody clicked that and they licensed the technology for a cancer treatment to Bristol-Myers company. And that one technology was earning $15 million royalty per year for 20 years for the life of the patent. So we call it, you need a home run. And I'm sure in Africa there are many home runs. There are many technologies sitting there at the public institutions, but you need to create that enabling environment and support that. So there is that incentives for the faculty and specialists. And the last one is the demand from industry. I was talking about this public-private partnership. I think Dr. Somasundaran eloquently emphasized that every technology he listed, what is the technology and which is the company. So that partnership with industry is very critical. So one of the organizations in the United States that brings this technology transfer manager. And I'm so grateful to African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, and African Academy of Sciences and UNESCO and UNCST that you are organizing this Calestous Juma dialogue. In the United States, there is this Association of University Technology Managers. It's called AUDA. Please look at the website. AUDA is an association of technology transfer offices of public and private universities from all over the United States and also Canada and so on. I think they have more than probably 1,000 members there. So Michigan State University, our innovation center is a member of AUDA, and I have put a web link for the AUDA. Yeah, AUDA was started many, many years ago. Now it has grown to a big organization. I think this is giving warning that it's lunchtime maybe, yeah? Don't know why. So I think one idea that I would like to suggest for this group to consider, because I think the previous panel, there was very excellent discussion, that everybody was saying that we need that support system. We need that enabling environment. We are doing a lot. Countries here, 55 countries of African Union are all at different stages. There is a wealth of experience sitting here. So one idea that I would like to suggest is, can we all work together? And one of the action plan that we can discuss is, can we create, because my colleague from African Union will tell us, is not only the CJED dialogue, but what happens after dialogue, yeah? We got to come up with some. So can we work together and create some kind of an autumn-like organization for the continent of Africa, where technology managers like you, technology specialists like you, can come together and share your experience, your ideas, and invite others, yeah? So what Autumn does is basically provide networking opportunities. They do training and professional development. They provide mentoring. They also share tools and resources. And also Autumn is a voice for policy advocacy. So whenever they want to create new policies or guidelines and things at the government level, Autumn is a one voice for everyone, yeah? So this is one thought, idea that maybe we can discuss tomorrow as a part of the action plan. I was in Rwanda. I've traveled all over Africa. I was in Rwanda at the Rwanda Bureau of Standards, and I saw a quote. You know, whenever I see a good quote, I take a picture. So this is a quote from Director General of Rwanda Bureau of Standards, and he says, if you cannot transfer innovations, they are useless. Yeah, this tells us. So we need to all work together, address those challenges that previous panel was mentioning, and then fast track the technology transfer so that the society, the 1.5 billion people of Africa can benefit and their lives can be improved. So this is in a nutshell a summary of the technology transfer system at Michigan State University. Thank you very much.
On now. Thank you, Dr. Karim. And one thing I wanted to mention is that this sort of system can happen very quickly. So Dr. Karim was there in the very beginning at Michigan University when there was only 2.5 people. It was what, 1992? Now it's over, what, like 30 or 50 people working. Very complex and big system. And then it was just 10 to 15 years ago when there was only about 2 or 3 universities that had these business development units or technology transfer offices, and it has just exploded in the last 10 to 15 years. So, you know, if you're just getting started, it's not too late. You're not like behind or anything, and it can happen very, very quickly. So with that, I think we'll open it up for some questions. I think we have about 15 minutes. So who would like to go first? Okay. You, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Professor Marenda and then Egan for the brilliant presentation. This is a very quick one to Professor Karim. You know, we hear often about this Bayh-Dole Act of 1980 from the US of A and how it has, fostered progress in intellectual property development and innovation in the USA. Tell us specifically, what are some of the few advantages of this Bayh-Dole Act of 1980? Even though you have illustrated some of the activities that Massachusetts, Michigan State University has done. But what actually are the ingredients of this Bayh-Dole Act that has spurred innovation and technology generation in the US universities? Thank you.
Good question. Bayh-Dole Act. Can you hear? Yeah. The Bayh-Dole Act had some specific things. So before 1980, before Bayh-Dole Act, when government gave funding for research, the government retained the ownership of the technologies, yeah? The universities and other non-profit organizations that were getting government funding, they did not have any ownership. So they could not license that. Bayh-Dole Act gave these public universities and private universities and non-profit the rights to ownership of the technology. So when patent is issued, the patent is a property of our university, Michigan State University. We can do whatever we want. There are patents that we have just give it away free. There are patents we have licensed things. So that's one advantage. The second is the Bayh-Dole Act has, by the way, there is a link on that. Bayh-Dole Act has a special provision where universities should give priorities to license their technology to small and medium-sized companies so that they also develop, not just multinational companies, yeah? So there are a few advantages like that. And that, the third part was that any income that these universities would generate, they would share that with the inventor, yeah? That it's not just the institution will keep all the money, but that, so they created that incentive. So those are the three I know. There may be more. If you just click on the link, the Bayh-Dole Act is there. And it has really spurred huge. I mean, our university, we did not even have a technology transfer office. It was started in 1992, as Calista said, 1.5%. Just one full-time and a one half-time. And now if you go there, we have a huge 30, 40. The university is able to generate about $5 million to $6 million in royalty income. But it's not just the money. It's getting the technologies out so that society can benefit. For example, let's say we have a scientist in animal science and they develop a vaccine. We don't have capacity at the university to commercialize vaccine. We can come up with a new vaccine, we can test it a little bit, but we don't have a capacity. So we have to work with the private sector to take it forward. Same thing with, he was talking about variety seeds and so on. Our breeders develop the varieties, but we don't have a capacity to scale it up, multiply, market, so we just license it to the private sector, and the private sector does a good job. And we not only, we move away from giving exclusive licenses, we would like to give non-exclusive licenses so that we can work with number of companies, so that there is no monopoly, and that these companies can also compete with each other. So that brings the prices down, yeah? So I hope I answered a little bit of your question, but there are multiple benefits of Bayh-Dole Act. Japan adopted Bayh-Dole Act and they started calling Japan Bayh-Dole Act. Malaysia also took that. I think India has adopted it in a different form, not exactly. So I request that each country should look at these type of, maybe not just from US, but from many other countries, see what kind of policies are there. Maybe even some countries, I think South Africa and others may have some policies that you may benefit. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. Actually, like the previous speaker, we have listened to amazing presentations from Michigan State University and Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. Your strong recommendation for UTM-like organization for Africa is the way to go, especially focusing on this issue of extension services and outreach with the triple helix concepts. We have to make the triple helix concept workable. But my specific questions are for Dr. Soma Sundaram. What qualifies a research output to go for it to be incubated? Number one. Number two, I want to know what is the percentage or the ratio of technologies incubated that are commercialized? You gave us a list without the numbers, so I want to know. Then number three, if the seeds produced are part of what are described as genetically modified seeds, which many African countries, many African communities don't like because of the fact that smallholder and peasant farmers cannot acquire those seeds. So if they are GMO seeds, what is the policy of India on GMO seeds?
Oh, very nice questions you have posed. So the first one is what is the level of incubation that is being done to the. So during the period of, I'm referring on my own domain, that is agriculture. So when the agriculture graduates at the final year, they are exposed to rural agricultural work experience program. So we are interacting with the farmers, and by learning for the 4 years professional course, they are not competent to develop solutions for any of the issues that are faced by the farmers. So what they will come with a rough idea. What I can say, for a crop like vegetable, bendi, the picking is done by the women in South India. So they can harvest 100, 200 vegetables. After that, their nail will go up, their swelling will happen, all these things. But they want to develop some small tool, cost-effective tool. That idea, the student will come with that idea. Then what we do is, we develop small different type of choices of tools. Say for example, putting as a cap, small metallic cap on this finger, and then try to harvest. What is the efficacy? So what is the speed? All these things. Then putting a cap on this finger also. So like that we go on validate. We have a system called Entrepreneur in Residence. After completion of the graduation, they will be funded 25,000 to 30,000. Say for example, 5,000 rupees in your money, Ghana money. So to support and validate, for meet out the living expenses and experimental expenses, all these things for a period of 1 year we give. So during the period of that 1 year, he will be mentored by the concerned scientists. Day-to-day development will be evaluated or discussed. So in what way he has to go to bring it as a tool for commercialization. So the tool cost is maybe less than $1, so that the poor women folk, the laborer, can buy it and have 2 or 3 with her, so that she can do and complete the work. Because in southern India, once they harvest for a specified area, their payment will be given, not based on the hours. So because of this small tool, she will harvest within an hour and get the money and go happily. Like a homemaker, she will be a small period of the day as a worker. I think I have given that point. The role of the incubation center or incubation forum is to cater the requirements and standardize the technology, and to make it as a company or the patenting or the financing through venture capitalists or angel investors. Many banks are now coming forward because we are having the academic support, institutional support. They are very confident that this technology will go in a big way. So the percentage adoption, the percentage entry and exit, that percentage I'm telling. Out of 100 technologies, as told by our esteemed Professor Karim, sir, 10% is going as a technology. 90% again reupload, so that it should come into the creamy layer, then we go. So the same technology after 2 to 3 years may become a technology. So 11%, 12%. Now our university technology is up to 15%. 15% is a good success from my point of view. And third thing, my poor memory, I think Dr. Calista can help me. What's the third question you asked?
GMO
Seeds. GMO seeds,
GMO.
yeah. Legally, our country, we are not promoting the transaction of GMO seeds. Just for experimentation in the global research network, we do on brinjal, maize, and etc. But it has not been, the technology is not transferred. Right. Yeah. Yes.
The only crop that has been GMO crop that's been commercialized in India is cotton. Yeah.
The NGOs and also the farmer forums, they created agitation and no more further research on that aspect. By the time 95% of the cotton grown in India is GMO.
Yeah. And India used to be a net importer of cotton.
Yes.
Now with the introduction of PT cotton, they have become a net exporter.
This is a non-food crop and a non-edible crop. People are not.
But recently the government has approved guidelines for genome editing. There's a lot of research, a lot of work going on, and I must congratulate African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, for really coming up with a guidance document that APET has brought out, genome editing now. A number of countries here in Africa also have approved their guidelines, I think including Ghana. Ghana has now approved, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Ethiopia, Malawi, and a number of have approved guidelines for genome editing. So these are some of the emerging technologies that are coming out. And Ghana also has approved cowpea recently, the BT cowpea here. Nigeria has done very well with cotton and maize and cowpea.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and I believe that's you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you for the panelists for this very great knowledge sharing session. I think my take here is on the path of encourage startups with funds. It is very key. Our researchers here, our lecturers here, our dean here is a take-up that we must emphasize to actually bring about the desired change that we so want. And again, the next take-up is how we drive the culture of innovation, as you rightly stated, is very important. It is alien, it's not in our institutions. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It's not in our institutions. Firstly, the ambience, the laboratories, are they okay? Are they in terms with global best practices? Please, let's be factual. Are they okay? If they're okay, that's fine. Then we should introduce those institutional support to encourage this young lad or young scientists or innovators, as it were. Incentive, especially in a state where if we are to develop entrepreneurs, great entrepreneurs, we need to incentivize them, because else they will fall into the streets and become job seekers instead of job creators that will absorb the pressure of unemployed or unemployment in our streets, so that they too can enjoy from those royalties. Very importantly, awareness creation is very key. When an institution does this and students follow up, it will encourage them to do well because their target is to achieve or acquire all of that. But how can we achieve that? In an institution or in an environment that is porous, porosity is subject to either corruption or certain things. We can get in a PPP project, public-private partnership with individuals, independent individuals or companies that have integrity to subject or assess, evaluate this selected few before they can enjoy from all of those privileges, as it were. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to highlight one thing, that our university doesn't shy away from working with private sector. Some countries you go, there is a mistrust between the public sector and the private sector. The public sector thinks private sector is going to take away and make the money. And then the private sector thinks that public sector doesn't really have much. I think it's that coordination, that what he mentioned, that we are also inviting private sector to give guest lectures. Our students do summer internships at private companies. They get ideas, you know, and so on. So I think that enabling environment of working together really helps that. And then the government keeps funding, or government supports with policies and so on, yeah? So I think these three entities working together is key.
I would like to add. So as told by a professor, we are having a system in our university. Our visionary Vice Chancellor has introduced 2 years back. That is professor of practice that can be implemented in Africa. So he may be a progressive farmer, he may be an industrialist, he may be a successful entrepreneur. They will be engaged for a period of 1 or 2 years, conducting classes periodically, 3 or 4 lectures per year, so that they will share the experiences and sensitize the student community or new generation entrepreneurs how it can be approached. Their if and buts, their failures will be suitably addressed so that cannot be repeated in the travel of the students. So professor of practice on honorary basis. We give a certification, we honor them in the foundation day or the degree giving day or graduation day, so that they get enlightened, and then many times they offer the I think the environment or ambience for the new generation entrepreneurs to work in their company, to learn how to do it and create a micro enterprises or something like that. So they don't feel it is a competitor, he is like this. So that is how many of the companies, the vaccines, when Professor was telling about that, Bharat Biotech Solutions from India has created one beautiful vaccine, Covishield, that has catered the requirements. Many of the SAARC countries, our government has given free of cost, because our startup is having the advantage we have is create a startup or nurture the entrepreneur, he will become the philanthropist to give back to the institutions. Our startups started funding, giving support to the researchers by offering some money for their research as a sponsor, and then things are going on. So we need not in the long run depend on the government or the networking institutions, government institution to support for research or education. It is automatically being done. They are giving internship, they are giving stipend, they are giving everything. They are happy to do that because they got some benefit out of our incubation and mentoring and other hand-holding support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's time for lunch now, so I know, but like, okay. You can do it during lunch, but okay, one more. Last one. Please.
Okay, I'll do it snappy. Thank you very much for the presentation from both. And I think I want to link it to earlier remarks. I think it came from Gideon. In your presentation, you highlighted this triangle of government, academia, industry, and this executive dialogue as a way of making sure that we reach the 2063 agenda. Unfortunately, the aspect of government and industry, it's missing in some of these dialogues. I'm not too sure whether the organizers looked at this area, because this, I believe that the universities, as far as research innovation is concerned, are way ahead. But the issue, how do we link, integrate, and get this escalating so that we can get, so I would suggest maybe in future in the executive dialogue, subsequently we bring in more of the other sectors so that we can have a better dialogue to promote the agenda. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. You see, when we develop a new variety or hybrid, immediately we called all the seed firms and also innovative farmers, so that sample seeds or nuclear seeds will be given to all at free of cost. Then they enter into the process of commercialization. Farmer will grow, multiply, company will grow, small farmer, marginal farmer, big farmer, everybody will be there. We showcase all the varieties at different stages of crop growth, flowering stage, vegetative stage and harvesting stage, so that they will get a lot of information and they will interact with the breeder who is developing the variety one-to-one. They will get connected. This way, industry and academia can collaborate in a better way. Thank you.
I think what you can do is, I think the previous panel, someone highlighted the importance of institutional policy. So as a part of your institutional policy, you can have a section on partnership with industry, yeah? So without having that in the institutional policy, it will be difficult. So we are able to interact with industry freely, invite them, like you said, and work with them and license, because that's part of our institutional technology transfer policy. So I would look at that. If you want some examples of institutional policy, there are some very good examples there where this industry-academia partnership is involved. But it's a good suggestion that we need to have participation of industry.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to our presenters. Thank you. And the conversation can certainly continue throughout lunch and over the next day and a half. Where's our MC to tell us what's happening? I'm assuming lunch is outside, but I don't have the details.
All right, thank you so much.
Can we kindly ask the colleagues outside to come in so we continue? It's almost 4 now, and we'll have to make it a point to be done by 5. So we'll allocate only 30 minutes for the breakout sessions, and then another 30 minutes for the reporting back. So we do have 2 breakout sessions, one on health and agriculture. So for health, we have a Chifundo, wonder where my colleague is, Dr. Frank Nyako and Dr. Daniel Elikem Breiman. So I think maybe the one for health could be here, since we have a majority of the people here. And for agriculture, we could be this way. So this side, we could live here and there wouldn't be interference. So for the group, the breakout session, there's another room. Oh, okay. And there's another room out there. So can we have health? Those who are interested in joining the health. And the topic is strengthening capacity for technology transfer in African institutions and industries. I think capacity strengthening is one of the recommendations that came out during the discussions, the importance of strengthening capacity to enable the transfer of technologies. So how is this done, particularly when we look at health? And then the second one, agriculture, we have Prof. Emmanuel Bobobi, Mr. Alfred Jeke, and Dr. Sherif Kamara. So we'll have them stay in this room. So agriculture can be here, and health would go to the adjoining room. Colleagues, can we maybe start, or should we number 1, 2, 1, 2?
Good afternoon to all. My name is Alfred Cheke from Liberia. I'm the chair and coordinator on the Innovation Hub and the Department of Mechanical Engineering, University of Liberia.
Yeah, good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Emmanuel Bobobi. I am a lecturer in this university, and I am a student of innovation in agriculture.
I am Sharif Kamara, Head of Department Mechanical and Maintenance Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, Forbes College, Sierra Leone.
Okay, so today we'll be discussing strengthening capacity for transfer in Africa, institutions and industry, and agriculture. So how can we transfer capacity for technology or transfer in Africa? So for me now, we start with a case of Liberia. You see, we have a big university, one innovation hub, and everything we do is just manually. So UNDP was able to launch a project in our country called the UNEPAD, Liberian United Nations Development Innovation Hub, where I run one of the programs. But most of it is in engineering. We are forgetting the agriculture aspect of it. And my country is one of the places that agriculture is on a low key. How can we help boost and transfer some of it? Because of the situation on ground, which just came from a brutal civil war, that Liberia is lacking so many of technology. When I'm saying that, I'm not looking down on the country, but I'm saying the reality that is faced with the country. So one of the things that I look at, I can help to transfer some of the capacity in our country. Can look at strengthening research and development institutions. Do we have so many research institutions in Africa? Yes, we have. Are they strong up to the task? Is the question we ask one another every day. Because if we check, most of us that went away to study, we stay there. Why are we staying? Can we come back and strengthen our institutions that we have? Are we not good researchers for our country? Are we not getting the infrastructure that we need in our country? So, if our research centers are well strengthening, I think we will boost agriculture in Africa. For example, there are so many things that we do in Africa that is interchangeable, like Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone. We have so many agricultural products that are the same, but most of them, if you are doing the trade barrier, you will see that if I'm taking a yam from Ghana to Liberia, our government, our politics that play, we have hard tax on it. So some of the things I think that can be done to help strengthening technology transfer, we have an innovation hub set up for agriculture in Africa, in each of the countries, where people from Ghana can go and expand on produce from Ghana. People from Liberia can expand on produce from Liberia in Ghana. And people from Sierra Leone can do the same. It will also help us to boost and help us to have free trade flow. Like when I was in school doing my master's, I came up with a technology called the solar irrigation system. I went to school in India, but most of the irrigation system I saw in India was powered by electricity, or from the high tension. So I sat and I said, no. In Liberia, we don't have solar irrigation. We don't have irrigation systems. Our farmers go to the well They pump, get water for themselves, take it to their crops. So what can we do to empower our farmers? But our electricity in Liberia is not stable. So India, the electricity is stable. My 2 years in India, everything for electric power was stable. So my country don't have stable electricity. How can we make it work in Liberia? So when I came up with the idea, I said, okay, so what we do, we use a solar panel. The solar panel were able to transfer, get a sun ray, power it on, transfer it to the electric pump, and the electric pump can send water to the farm and help the crops to get its own water at a time. So I came up with that, and I did the prototype, developed it. When I went back home, to my utmost surprise, I never had anything to work with back home. So what I did, I said I will not give up. I want to transfer this idea, this innovation, to the youth within my country. I started my own thing, started to work with my own capacity and my own finance to strengthen my friends. So it was when UNDP came out with that innovation hub, I said, okay, this is the place that we can transfer some of our knowledge and transfer the technology that we have to our friends through this innovation hub. But to be real, in my country, we don't have an innovation hub of agriculture. So if Africa can partner with one another, each country to establish an innovation hub in each country that will help transfer this knowledge, transfer this power to the African youth, I think we can do better. I will stop here and let my colleague to continue.
I'm the rapporteur, but let me also, so as I'm talking, used to take the notes. Yeah, I think the issue about technology transfer in agriculture in Africa is very, very relevant. Simply because, one, our economies on the continent are mostly based on agriculture. In fact, most of us produce the same primary commodities for export. In fact, virtually Africa produces crops that we do not consume, and then we rather consume crops that we do not grow. But then now, if you want to domesticate even the production of the crops that we grow, as has been mentioned by my colleague earlier, we have the bulk of our food producers in Africa to be smallholders who still use primitive tools and methodologies that has been used by Adam and Eve in the Bible. When God cursed them to go and toil, the tools that Adam and Eve were using in the Bible, if you are a Christian, you know what is it. It is in Genesis. Genesis chapter 3, verse 27, something like that, when they were cursed. That is the technology the bulk of African farmers are still using. And that is making agriculture to be a very painful profession. And it is not attracting the youth. And because of that, our production level is getting down because we are not investing in any science and technology, and then we are not using any modern technologies also. So to be able to reverse the trend, Africa now, we have to re-engineer out the way we do agriculture, just like the way it is done in the developing countries. The farming that we do should move away from the age-old, traditional Adam and Eve technology to modern-day technology. In fact, as we talk right now, we are actually in the 4th industrial revolution. And the technology of the hoe and the cutlass predates the 1st industrial revolution. And it is biblical. Then, somewhere along the line, Africa has been using this sort of bullocks, plow, and then the rest. That one you can find an example also in the Bible. In 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 19, when Elisha was plowing with a team of oxen, and Elijah came and they left. So that is a technology that we still use in my place in Africa. But these days, the good thing is that the young ones that are supposed to be behind the animals are now going to school. So the time their parents need these boys to do the plowing, they cannot find them. That is a mixed feeling. good and bad. So now we have to use tractors. The tractors that we use in Africa, from my own experience, we use tractors to do only primary tillage. We don't even do secondary tillage. And if you look at the whole breakdown, once you do primary tillage, the crops are big. And when you plant, and these seeds do not get contact with the soil, they are not able to draw nutrients from the soil to be able to germinate. Because of that, our yields are consistently low. So what we need is that we need to actually reverse and then recalibrate the way we do agriculture in Africa by having a holistic approach to mechanization. We plow, we harrow, and we ridge before we plant. And we adopt modern ways of weeding, weed control, and then the rest. Then we have a higher yield. And once we do that, these days, even we are now in the forefront, then we bring in artificial intelligence, like the use of this unmanned area vehicle, the drone. So we too, we need that. But to be able to use this efficiently, we need to embark on human resource development. We need to start, training our young ones in the Department of Agriculture on the use of modern technologies so that they can transition from what their parents are doing, using the rudimentary back-breaking implements, to modern day, high-tech implements, so that at the end of the day, we can make agriculture smart and sexy on the continent to attract the youth to take it as a full-time profession. Now, most of the people who are doing agriculture, either they steal money when they were politicians, so they come and set up some farm in some village, and then they behave like some absentee farmers, and they have not been getting any good yield. Those who are doing the real farming as a full-time work, they are not getting the resources and then the support, and their yields are always low. And because of that, they are not serving as motivation for the young ones to go in. But if we can change the face of agriculture a little bit and inject some appropriate technology to make the work easy, I think that is when Africa can actually come out of this present situation of having food insufficiency, because we have a very large continent, and then we have the most arable land in the world, but then we are still having food self-insufficiency, and then we depend on food aid from outside. So our government must embrace modern technology into agriculture, just like we have embraced in other aspects of our economies. Like all of us here, we are using smartphones. None of us contributed any idea when the inventors were doing this smartphone. But the moment you want to introduce some technology into agriculture in Africa, the first question they ask you is, have you done any socioeconomic studies? Have you asked the farmers? Meanwhile, nobody asked us when they were doing these smartphones, but we all own them. Why is it that when you want to introduce something that will benefit farmers in Africa, they will ask you all types of planetary questions? Have you done any socioeconomic effect? What is the cost-benefit analysis? Will it not create unemployment? And so on and so forth. And I think these are some of the questions we set to actually set ourselves back. When you are talking about even using mechanization, the FAO in the past has advised African governments that they should not do mechanization because it will create unemployment. 50 years down the line, now that FAO is coming to say Africa should mechanize, they call it sustainable agricultural mechanization in Africa, when a lot of people have lost interest in agriculture. To end my story, and then maybe continue later on, even ourselves, we Africans, we have been the biggest impediments to developing modern agriculture on the continent. Why? In schools, when we were young, I was in the primary school some 60 years ago, so you can guess my age. When you assist your parents to go to the farm, and most of the time our parents were not Christians, so sometimes Sundays they start going to farm. When you come to school on Monday, the teachers will say, go and weed, go and do something agriculture. So you see agriculture as a form of punishment, and you grow to hate it. And the corollary is this. In the Catholic Church, kneeling down is a form of worship. So if you punish students in the Catholic school, hey, you Kojo, you are late, kneel down. When he goes to church on Sunday, he will refuse to kneel down because he will look at kneeling down as a form of punishment. So the Catholic Church has consistently banned kneeling in their schools. So we should encourage our students to not to do manual work as a form of punishment in schools, but to maybe his English is not good. I will not be late to school again, maybe 20 times or 100 times. And that will help him improve his handwriting and so on and so forth. So I think basically these are some of the structures that are impeding against, the the facelifting of agriculture to make it an attractive profession, and we need to look at it critically and make changes. Thank you very much.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, I'm coming from a bit of a tilted angle. I studied mechanical engineering, and I'm currently researching on improved cook stoves. I am from Sierra Leone. I am going to explain the link between efficient heat transfer and agricultural output. So it's heat and agriculture. And you guys are going to help me make that link stronger. We all here in this room, the Indians and the Pakistani and the Africans, we like to eat our food cooked. And even when they are cooked, we make sure they are not half cooked. So it means it needs more heat. So, and research or current data have shown that about 2.2 billion people in developing countries are still using inefficient methods of cooking. And that has devastating consequences on health and the environment. So, and also on girls and boys. So, if we can make that cooking efficient by improving the technology of cook stoves, by moving from that 3-stone traditional cooking method and bringing in a technology or a device that can use less fuel and cooks faster, then girls and boys will have more time to study and they will not spend time fetching firewood. And so, eventually using less fuel means less deforestation, which is good for agriculture. If you're cooking and you're using 3 kilograms of wood per cook per day, each family, and then you use a better method and use less volume or mass of wood, if you multiply that, the multiplying effect will actually be positive on the environment. And so it means less trees will be cut down. And also in these 3 countries, these 2 continents I mentioned, I think in India they've got is it chapati or so, something like bread? And it needs heat, not so. Good. And in Sierra Leone, Senegal, Nigeria, and Ghana, gari. So have you ever thought, I know a lot of you Africans here, West Africans, must have seen gari being produced. And most of the time, they are using that rudimentary heat exchanger. That is the 3-stone fire. So, my research is spent on see how best we can make the producers of these edible food to accept that device. I've been facing challenges in moving, in unlearning, in creating, learning and unlearning. And to be honest, I found out that unlearning is difficult. It's a cultural thing. I introduced a stove, we dried the gari, and then what happened? Some people didn't buy it. Say, oh, we've used to the smell of the wood from that gari. Can you imagine? And there was another family The husband didn't eat the food that stove was cooked from, even though we used wood. He said, no, my wife is used to using firewood from that 3 stoves. That's what my granddaddy, my blah, 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 they've all used. So I have to extra education. So I'm moving now from an engineer to a what? Social worker. Thank you so much. So that got me back to what my professor was saying. I have to go back and gather social information, feasibility studies. What do the people want? And so now I'm in the process of seeing how best I can re-engineer that stove to reflect the beliefs of these people so that this thing can be appreciated. So for now, I'll pause here for the next session.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much to the leaders. I'm just looking at the process of agriculture and the need for the technology at each stage. First, we start with the soil preparation, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And then the planting or sowing of the seeds. And we would see that at each stage, we do need specific technologies. Then harvesting, when the crops start growing. Then we're looking at the harvesting and then post-harvest. One area that is of a big challenge for us in Africa is also technologies that are required for post-harvest and for preventing post-harvest losses. I remember a number of years ago, my sister and I went to a coastal town, Keta, and it was the harvesting season at that time. And so we decided to get some tomatoes. So we stopped by the roadside and talked to the ladies, and they gave us the price. It was so low that I think we bought about 2 baskets and just dumped them in the car. And she was telling me that, you think this is cheap. It's really sad. But as you go along, you are going to see baskets of tomatoes abundant on the farms. And that's exactly what we saw when we were driving, baskets upon baskets. And I felt so brokenhearted because I could imagine the drudgery that's involved in the planting, sowing, harvesting. And yet, because of all the challenges associated with taking these to the farm and the low cost that is involved, maybe at the end of the day, it wasn't worth their while, and so they left it there. So our panelists, what are some of the things that can be done? What are some of the technologies that we can look at to really help with the post-harvest losses in our countries? We've been talking about innovation hubs and establishment of a sector-specific innovation hub. And I think that this is a really excellent idea. However, it needs to be sustainable. You know, I remember one of the dialogues that we had it in South Africa. And so we took the delegates to the Pretoria. They have an innovation hub there. And this is such a well-structured place. It's like a small village on its own. And so this is really under the University of Pretoria. So it was being managed in partnership with the government and then the University of Pretoria and the private sector. So you have these buildings and you have the innovators being assigned offices, being assigned mentors, and then being provided with funding. And the idea was that the innovation that they had, they would support them until the innovation gets to the commercialization level and then gets transferred. You know, and this was done very well because the university had allocated a budget to this. The government had allocated a budget as well. And then the private sector institutions or corporations, this was part of their social responsibility. So it's like each person or organization, institution was bringing something to the table. And that is how they are able to sustain this. Now we look at our African countries, we talked about this sector specific. Is this a model that we can emulate? Is this a model that can be implemented in other countries? What are some of the other suggestions that we can bring on board?
Okay, so we look at your case study when you were coming, you bought a basket of tomato. Let's look at Africa. One of the things that we are lacking, storage centers. So our farmers get downhearted, abandon their goods on the farm, because if the season of that crop is over, no one go for it again. It's one of the things that we are lacking in Africa. So how can we help to make our farmers stronger, give them more money, that after that season, they can be able to have that crop back onto the market? We need to have a storage for them. One of the things is bar roads. Our roads are not good in Africa. So to leave the farm to the city, most of the crops get damaged. So the person is looking at that labor in terms of planting, taking care of the crops, in harvesting, pre and post harvesting. All of that, they look at it and say, but before that take it to the market, it's all damaged. So if we can look at our government, ask our government to improve on our farm roads with at least a little bit, maybe we cannot do asphalt pavement or maybe grain them, we help our farmers and we have a good storage for them. If we have a good storage, our farmers will always want to produce more, because after that season, they know they will still get their produce onto the market.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just add a little. That the question you've asked actually hinges on food security. I mean, even though we are producing the rudimentary way using the Adam and Eve method, as I've said earlier, sometimes we get, I mean, nature is so favorable, we get glad. In fact, the agriculture in Africa, majority of the smallholder farmers actually depend on rain-fed agriculture. That's what we call, by the grace of God, agriculture. If God wills and he cries, we get rain. If God is angry and he doesn't cry, we don't get rain. So people call it by the grace of God. Now, if you look at this food security, that means how do we get food security in Africa? We sit on a very large arable land, but then we are the recipient of food aid from all over the world. The recent example is even a war-torn Ukraine has to ship grain to Africa countries in the heat of, their war with Russia. Meanwhile, we are sitting on a vast, arable land. It's because, one, if it is talking food security, when we produce, this food is not properly stored and distributed throughout the year. If you go to any supermarket in any developed countries, you get tropical crops any time in the year. Meanwhile, when we want to eat any of those processed crops, they are very expensive here. When you are there, you want to eat African food, they are very expensive too. So we are always at the losing end. What I think we should do is that, timely harvest is important so that the food does not get rotten or spoil on the farm. And then when it is like that, it is fresh, then you dehydrate or you reduce the moisture, because what actually causes deterioration most of the time is the moisture. So when you can dry and reduce the moisture content to a safe level, then you can extend the shelf life of this. And then the packaging. It's unfortunate most of you may not go, but if you see the way some of our food are processed, and then before we buy them, if you are conscious of your health, you may not actually eat something. But I think they say African stomach is generous. So it's always forgiving, and then it's tolerant to a lot of diseases also. So the way we package our food also needs a lot to be improved. And like my friend has said, first of all, the food has to be evacuated rapidly from the farm to the consuming centers. If the roads are not good, transportation is expensive. And usually the rural areas is where we pay more for transport. And all these things actually go against the poor farmer. And because of the way their farms are dispersed, they are not easy to be linked by access roads. So that also calls in that at the production, you have to put in place some structures, good roads, and then if you mechanize, at least the roads the tractors have been using can be used. Now we have a lot of these Indian or this tricycle or Chinese from the east. They can use those roads and then convey this produce easily to processing centers or drying centers. And the storage facilities are also very important. But traditionally too, our people have some means of doing it, but that is on a small scale. A typical example is, let's take corn. Corn, if you harvest your corn and you don't have the big barn and you have not dehusked it, they have a traditional barn where they store this corn in a very nice pattern, and then most of the time they cook under this barn. And once they cook, the smoke goes in to actually prevent insects from these weevils from breeding and then destroying the crops. And this thing can last so many centuries. Some of these things, even though they are crude, they are still effective. In fact, it is now a scientific, it is in a scientific level. The French people call it a believer. That is a maize ban. And it is something that we can promote, especially on smallholder farms, so that the time that this maize is needed during the lean season, the farmer has enough stock which he or she can release to the market. When it comes to tomato, which is very perishable, I think we should develop appropriate processing technologies, like canning some of these things. In fact, in Burkina Faso, they are very good at that. They even dry it. They slice it and dry it, and then it is able to last for a long period. But typically in Ghana, when watermelon, when it is in season, you'll be sad that your relative is a farmer. To even plantain, when it is in season, you'll be sorry that you come from a farming family. So we need to, but the technology still exists, even though not the high-end ones, but appropriate ones that we can use. But at the end of the day, these people are still very resource limited, and they need support to be able to upgrade their facilities. Thank you.
Thank you. If I may come in to ask another question. We have the AU High-Level Panel on Emerging Technologies that has published a number of knowledge products. And some of them are on emerging technologies. We have drones, we have microgrids, and then we have AI. So if we look at these drones and then microgrids, for example, I believe these can also be applied by our farmers. They can be applied in agriculture. So maybe you can speak to that. How can we use drones to support the farmers? And then following Dr. Kamara's intervention, would open it up for others to also intervene. Thank you.
Yes.
We have just about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you so much, Doctor. For the last one, I'm not a drone expert, so I'll throw it to the audience, but I'll come to the agriculture part, and I think I'll just take less than 2 minutes. Fish farming is also important, and even in Sierra Leone, a lot of the time, about 10 to 40% of the fish got rot if they are not sold on time. But you can dry fish. That is, in other words, as Professor said, you can remove the moisture content and it can be preserved without refrigeration for some time. So using an efficient heat transfer method can actually take that pain off these farmers, these fish farmers, thereby encouraging them to get along. And also for the corn, Professor says, most of these people who are providing heat on the corn are using the rudimentary method. The stoves we are designing, they've got heat regulators. so you can adjust the heat. Go into the corn according to how slowly you want the moisture to be extracted. So that is my own take on the preservation of agricultural produce using heat.
Right, thank you so much. How about we open it up, see whether we would have a comment or two from the floor. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, okay. So we'll take that first round. Can we have, please? Okay, perfect.
Start here. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Listening to the panel discussion, and for example, the example you gave about South Africa in the University of Pretoria, what they are operating there is technically a technology park, which is a joint venture between the public sector, the higher education institution, and also government. And 10 or more years ago, the technology park issue, was all over the place. We even started it here at KNUST. They thought of getting a place where this idea would be implemented. But somehow it didn't just work out. We think it's a good way of transferring technology, because there you have the industrialists, and you also have the higher education institution with their research input on the same site. And then you also have the government institutions putting in their lot. I don't know why we haven't done it up to now. So it's not too late to go back to the idea. But listening to the discussion, the things we are proposing, we already know them. We know the answers. So it's like regurgitating what we already know. We know the theory, we know what to do, we know that when you want to preserve, for example, food material, you reduce the moisture content. We know that already. So why are we talking about it now? It's because we are not moving the next step to implement what we know. That is our problem. We already have the answers, but we are not implementing them. So we have to have these meetings all over and over again, regurgitating the same answers, the same things we already know. Why? That's the problem we have on our continent, and especially in my country, Ghana. If you go to my department here at KNUST, I've been here for nearly 40 years as a professor. All the things you're talking about, we have researched into them. We have beautiful theses lying on the shelves. Who cares to find out what is there? So we know the answers. What we should be talking about now is how do we get them implemented? I think that is what the focus should be here now, not what we should be doing. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, Prof. You're very right about that. I thought maybe you would have given us a few indicators, but it's okay. We'll continue the discussions and see, as you rightly said, what should we do next? We've been having this dialogue. The governments are aware about it and all, but what do we do next? Okay. So I saw a hand here. If we can have Mr. So, then we'll come this way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to add into the discussion, in terms of agriculture, when we are looking at agriculture, I think we should always look at it in the spirit of food security. And in doing that, I think of 4 parameters that we need to look at in relation to technology. What technologies would we need in relation to production? What technologies we will need in relation to farmers having aggregation? Like, for example, you've produce here. How do you bring the produce together as you lead to another step that involves processing? And at the same time, we also need technologies in relation to quality assurance, like quality of the production and also the food. So what I am proposing in terms of options for this dialogue is, one, the alignment with what the academic institutions we have. For instance, in the agriculture sector, we have what you call mixed farming centers, because they are supposed to be the niche for serving technologies to the farmers. So how are those mixed farming centers going to be linked with academic institutions? Using the emerging technologies that you've mentioned here, we've seen a high level of usage of drones in terms of providing products and leading processes in farming. But also, how do we leverage on ICTs? Technologies are out. How do we use the telephone? How do we use text messages to communicate information to farmers? What we need is not that too sophisticated to solve the current problems we have, but how we provide that information to the farmers using the channels of communication we have. I think we can use that. And another aspect is providing funding to startups in agriculture to promote agripreneurship within the continent. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening, Professor. I'm just giving some inputs or my thoughts regarding that cooking technology and cooking stove, what you raised that one. And as per your discussion, you are in a very threatened position, and because you are handling 4 parameters. One is engineering, one is agriculture, one is cooking, taste, as well as the social acceptance of that one. And what I need is, our experience is very fragile in that manner. During 80s, Government of India has launched a national program on improved cook stove. We analyzed around more than 200 improved cook stoves whose efficiency is more than 35%. That is a particularly biomass-based stoves. And out of that, 85 models are recommended for penetration in the rural areas. A huge investment was done. All the research institute has targeted the rural area so that they adopt the technology. But unfortunately, it is observed that the adaptation of the cooking technology or improved cook stove is directly related to the social status. If the urban people are using kerosene stove and LPG stove, in the rural area, women will try to get the LPG stove or the kerosene stove, and that too they demanded from the government on the subsidized rate. So all that cook stoves, everywhere that cook stoves are available, manufacturers are there, but adaptation is very less for that one. And that is in my opinion, that unless and until the social parameter is not addressed in that case, that biomass based or improved cook stove may not be get adopted. And ultimately, we are away from the biomass cook stove in India particularly now. In a rural area also they required LPG cook stove, but because government is giving with heavy subsidies. And nowadays, as the supply of LPG is reduced, now we are promoting the electrified oven or electrified hot plates. Now the urban area is adopting that electrified hot plates because of the smokeless cooking method, because of the ease of the operation, and they have to just put the button and start it. And now simultaneously, our technical institutes are now under development of solar operated cooking stoves. Conversion of solar energy into electricity and then electricity to, for that electricity for the cooking. So while addressing your issue of adaptation of an improved cook stove, particularly for the biomass, the social impact or the social parameter should be considered. This is my view in that case. Thank you very much.
Yes. I have one or two points. Here. Yeah. So, as far as the technology availability or the knowledge sharing to the farming community, as you were telling, the improved production techniques starting from seed to post-harvest management. Our university and most of the universities in India started Agri-Portal, that is called Agri-Portal, free e-platform for getting the information in English and local vernacular language. That can be adopted. In my speech also I told, more than 1.5 million pages are available for the benefit of farming community. If they have the doubt, everybody nowadays are having the smartphone or Android phone or without phone. Even people without heart is available but not without phone. So this technology can very well be transferred through this digital facility. Now we are going ahead in India. We are making entire India's digital India, right? Like that in the African, the first step of the agricultural universities or technology, science and technology universities, they can create the e-platform transferring all the production technologies for all the crops in the country so that it can be made available. Because depending the extension functionaries or field level functionaries for effective dissemination of the technology, the manpower, fund, everything is required. But by just a click, the farmer can get. What our farmers are doing, the banana farmer facing a problem of nutrient deficiency or pest and diseases, it just refer the symptom photo and also correlating with the specimen, he himself will get the solution at a single stop. Then where the raw material is available, that has also interlinked subsidized material. So everything go hand in hand. As a result, the implementation part is well taken care of. Second important point, the storage of the materials, harvested materials without much post-harvest losses. As one of the scientists told from Ghana, that we have a lot of methodologies drying to a level of desired level of storage, maybe less than 20% all. But practically the farmer cannot do it. Even though he is aware that drying will prevent the storage pest and etc. problems. But practically it cannot be done if it is voluminous and also weather-induced factors are there. So what the deep technology adopted, and it is in the pipeline, one of our startup has developed a technology or hermetic storage, whereas the big bags to store 1 ton of the produce at a cheaper cost. It is totally free from entry of anything into that storage bags. So it can be put in the field itself. At the time of getting a good price, he can open the bag and then sell it. So that technology has come globally. So that technologies can be implemented wherever the actual scientifically recommended technologies are not feasible. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Madam Moderator. I appreciate the interventions of the panelists as well as the audience. Most of the things I will be talking is based on experience for, I think, 17 African countries for which we did a study in terms of how to improve on agricultural production. This said, you see, we are talking about strengthening capacities for technology transfer. It's a question we are trying to answer. How can we strengthen the capacity of these institutions? How many institutions are involved here? 3. We have farmer institutions, research institutions or universities, as well as industries. Then when they talk of strengthening, strengthening means something is already existing. So how do we leverage on? Like the professor behind me of the KNUST said, these things are existing, but how do we leverage on? Some of the points I may mention here have already been mentioned. Some of the things which we realize first is human capacity development. The next is infrastructure development. Another is stability in utilities. Utilities like water, electricity, like they are talking about solar instead of local energy sources. Then you also talk of setting up of incubation or learning hubs for exchange programs between the farmers or institutions. Another point is to improve communication systems. Like a friend from India said, you can use local radios to pass the information across. Then institutional partnership, collaboration. What is the technology that is existing here in Ghana? How can you exchange it with another technology, maybe in India or Nigeria? Another aspect is diversification. How do we make the farmers move away from their routine practices by introducing new ideas? Is it farming practices? Is it method of cultivation, method of harvesting? Another thing we should also consider is the use of good and high-yielding varieties of seeds. Some of the seeds we use now are to subsistence. When we are talking about second-generation agriculture, is to increase yields. But the type of seeds we are using now are to subsistence, just to feed a farmer and probably his family. But when you have to extend to others, you need improved seeds. Another aspect we should also consider is actualizing our research institutions to contemporary times. Some of these institutions, the ideas or the missions need to be revised. Today in the world at large, we are talking about climate change. Does the ideas of your research institution fit? Because he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Most of the financing is out there. If you don't speak the language of the donor, he can't respond to you. And another aspect we should consider, last but not the least, if I'm permitted, is to encourage the farmers to form cooperatives or CIGs. Because when they bring their little contributions, like our friend from Sierra Leone was talking, building of these warehouses, storehouses, money may not necessarily come from the government, but through their cooperatives, they can learn to contribute to set up these transformation points or storage facilities. So I think I just said I should make these little contributions in these areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that actually rounds up everything. Okay, we have 2 hands. We have 3, just a minute each. Yes, because the prof's intervention just summarizes everything very well. So a minute to Prof and a minute to the other. Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to mention that some countries were once in the situation that we find ourselves in. And I would say some developed countries. So what was their challenge? And what did they do right that now they are out of this very challenge? Sometimes as universities, we want our students to start from scratch for the purpose of research. But can we look at some of the technologies that are already in existence in developed countries, maybe break them down, tear it apart, look at how we can adapt it to our local situation? Then it can easily be adapted than try and reinvent the wheel or start from scratch. Because these technologies, there are a lot of them already there. And I think that's what the Chinese did. They went around, looked at what others have done, adapted it, modified it to suit their situation. So we can do the same as a continent. Thank you.
Thank you. Prof. Karim?
I think a good discussion. My suggestion would be we take, I think what we are talking about, seeds, energy, storage, these are all different pieces. We need to look at the whole farm to fork approach, the entire value chain. Because technology can help in different ways, For example, if you're going to use fertilizer technology that helps improve the soil, then you need good seeds, then you need pesticides or whatever you need. So I think the approach we should take it is more a value chain, the entire value chain from farm to fork. And then I think for smallholder farmers, if a farmer has a small piece of land and growing tomatoes, there is no way that farmer, he or she, can take it to the market. So the model that has been implemented are cooperatives, and in last 10, 12 years, India has implemented what they call farmer-producer companies.
Companies, FPCs.
Which brings thousands of farmers together. So they can be growing tomatoes or poultry or dairy or anything, yeah? They come together so that you have what they call economy of scale, you know. Then you can say, okay, we will market together, or we can purchase, or we can produce, we can construct some storage facilities or post-harvest or processing facilities, and also market together. So I think that value chain approach would be the one. Otherwise, we'll be just addressing pieces or things, yeah? So.
APOs can be connected with academic institutions, as we are doing in the state.
Okay,
Another thing is simple and user-friendly techniques. Simple and user-friendly. Don't go and bring a technology that is too big for a farmer to adopt.
All right, so the last intervention.
Thank you. We are talking about how we can transfer technology as from one such tag to another. In the agricultural value chain, there are a lot of technologies that can be developed and can be used. I'm trying to develop a technology to change some ways of things happening in a particular sector. And my discussion with others, high-level people, there is a lot of resistance. The reason being that culture and tradition. I don't know how this one is being tackled, being handled. I'm not in the agriculture sector. So if you go to a farmer and try to introduce a technology, what is his perception about the culture and the tradition? It appears that seems to be a resistance. And my experience is not coming from the ordinary person who's supposed to use the technology, but somebody who is a high-learned person, who is a researcher, who is also trying to introduce technology, but you have spoken about your technology, and then he's talking about culture and tradition. So I was wondering how this one plays in the agricultural value chain, introducing various technology. We have been using, in Ghana, we have cocoa for ages. And the cocoa is a main earner for the country. But when we take the process right from the farmer, the technology being used, nothing new. Researches have gone on. Most of the researches are mainly on fertilizer, but not the technology. How to process all those ones are ignored. So I don't know if that is also because of culture and tradition. That is my stake. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That's a really important point that you've made. And this issue would not only apply to technologies in the agriculture sector, but technologies generally, all emerging technologies, whether it's going to be applied in health, agriculture, or any other sector. It's really important for us to look at the cultural, the social, as well as the ethical aspects of the technology. And one important consideration is also the mindset, because you need the social acceptance of the technology. There's really no need developing if it's not going to be adopted. And so to ensure the social acceptance of the technology, it's important to raise awareness And it's also important to engage the people who are going to be the target recipients of the technology so that you get their input, and really get them involved in not the development, but to have the knowledge about the technology even before it's developed. And so when this is done, there's more acceptance. I think we have quite a big lesson to learn from the GMOs. When this all started, there wasn't that much public education and awareness creation and all. So naturally, there was quite a lot of resistance. And this is what's happening with some emerging technologies as well. When you talk about innovation and emerging technologies, people become very resistant until you start telling them that innovation and emerging technology started years ago. I remember when we were kids, they had that lamp that it's like a Milo can or something, and they put the thing in it, right? And you light it. So that is what you see people using. But later on, then they had the lantern. That is innovation now, is it not? So the lantern at that time became an emerging technology. And then later on you had the chargeable batteries. Then we went to the full electricity, and now we have solar, and now you have lithium and others that we are using. So even when you take the blender, when we were growing, something that I really hated was grinding on the stone. I found it so tedious. So that's what we had. And then we had the one in the earthenware. But today we're using blender. When we talked about the efficient fire, I was thinking about, in the villages they had the 3 pots, and then it went to the coal pot. And then now we're using gas and electricity. At home, you ask the young girls to use the coal pots. They don't want to go and get a fire, the charcoal or anything. They use the gas because it's cleaner, it's faster. So when we are talking about emerging technology and its resistance, there is resistance. I think it's good to bring people back to the fact that technology has been emerging, that they have been using over the years without even realizing it. And you just hear the, and it'll make them more open. So on that note, colleagues, I would like to say a very huge thank you for the insightful discussions. What the prof said that really stuck with me is what's next. What should be the next steps? In Africa, we're told that policies are not our issues. Implementation plans are not our issue, but it's the implementation itself. Taking the next step, that's the issue. So it's time for us to really stand and collaborate. I think one challenge is the working in silos, where Mr. A doesn't know what I'm doing, Mr. B doesn't know what I'm doing, I don't know what they're doing, and we could be working on the same or similar things, but then working in silos. So there's need for collaboration. Funders now, they want their funds not to go through intermediaries, but to really go to the Africans, institutions being led by Africans, implemented by Africans. So now, how do we really strengthen our own capacities to ensure that we're in a space or position to implement these and implement them effectively? Agriculture is super important because as we've learned, or as we know, most African countries are agrarian. And each step of the value chain, we need technologies. Some of the technologies are out there, others are yet to be developed. But how do we ensure that these technologies are adopted in a very responsible manner? So that is what we need to work on. So colleagues, thank you very much for your time. We'll call in the health and maybe get highlights, about 4 highlights from each group. So whoever the rapporteur is can just stay on, and then the other 2 can take their seats. Thank you very much. Mr. MC, can you please call in the health team, or are they here already? Okay, thank you. just thought maybe you're tired and you would want to go and rest. But if you want to stay on till 6, we don't mind. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming through, colleagues. Can we have the rapporteur up on stage, please? So the discussion this afternoon has been on strengthening capacity for technology transfer in African institutions and industries. So what we're requiring is for you to just give us highlights about 4 main points, not to give us the entire note. The colleagues at the back, you may have to give it to them, but just about 4, maybe 4 to 6 highlights of some of your discussions. So.
Thank you very much. We spoke about strategies for strengthening technology transfers in the African institutions and industries. And we started by establishing the fact that the health sector in particular is different from the agricultural sector. Hence, they need to build institutions to satisfy certain needs. So we started by saying that we need to build institutions, institutions that are devoid of political interferences that will be able to satisfy certain needs. We also need to build our capacities, and we can do this by reorienting our students. Policy should be implemented to support these innovations in public universities and institutions. Institutional framework should be considered. Uniqueness of various institutions should also be considered. We also spoke about how Africans stand to benefit from cooperation in terms of technology transfer. We said that we can leverage on strengthened collaborations to help us increase our productivity. We also said that institutions should not be rigid, but they should be flexible enough to allow innovations in every step of the way. Legal framework should be put down together, and then individuals should be allowed to patent their innovations. We also spoke about some take-home messages, and we said we need to collaborate with students in using AI to solve our problems, and we need to change our attitude towards technology. We need to relook our standards for young innovators. We can look at custom-made standards so that when their innovations are perfected, they can go along with the original standards. So in total, this is what we spoke about.
That's it. That's great.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right. Yeah, Prof, go ahead.
Yeah, we talk about strengthening capacity for technology transfer in African institutions and industries with relation to the agricultural sector. And so many points were raised, but I would just highlight 6, not necessarily that they are the most important, but those are the ones that we want to, for timekeeping. I think the issue crop up about capacity building or capacity strengthening or human resource development through education. I mean, agricultural farmers are aging, and for that matter, we need to catch the young ones to be interested. So we need to introduce modern technologies that to attract them to take up agriculture as a business, not as a way of life of their parents. The issue comes out that we should encourage something like there should be technology without borders. That means the problems in Africa are almost the same. So if a technology is developed in any part of the continent and it is useful, I mean, we should have unimpeded access to the use of these technologies. And we hope that with the after and then the rest, I mean, technologies that are developed in other parts of the continent that are actually making waves will be easily accessible to the rest. Then there was an issue about the cook stove. You know, in agriculture, when you produce the food, we have to cook it before we eat. We cannot eat food raw. And the technology that we have been using to prepare food, the tripod, the stone, and then the use of the firewood is inefficient. It is causing devastation. It is actually leading the young ones to be late to school. They have very little time to study, and that is also affecting their education. So it has come out that there are new emerging technologies like even solar stoves, which are renewable, and this needs to be promoted on the continent. Then there was an issue about post-harvest, because, I mean, sometimes during the year, the practice of agriculture on the continent is mostly rain-fed, or which some people call, by the grace of God, agriculture. So when the rains come in torrents, the food yield is high. But at that time, because of lack of processing facilities, the glut is actually destroyed or is so that it becomes a disincentive for the farmers. So there is the need for technologies to actually help farmers to not only to produce, but then to process, and then to let this processed food be available all year round to actually anchor our food security on the continent. Then also there was a need for us that, at least in this modern day of the fourth industrial revolution, we need infrastructure, modern infrastructure to support our development on the continent. And for that matter, we need good roads, ICT, electricity, I mean, telephone and internet penetration on the continent are needed. And last but not the least, it has been raised by a lot of the speakers that farmer cooperatives are necessary to be able to husband the few resources that donors or development partners produce. And with that one, I mean, resources can be judiciously used to actually advance the frontiers of influence of the new technologies we are trying to promote. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, all colleagues, for the participation, the contribution. I believe that we've had a very productive session, not only a productive session, but a productive day. And there's quite a number of action points that have come out of the deliberation, and we'll try and put all these together for the next step in going forward. So unless there's a burning point to be made, I would like to, okay, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Moderator. Just to come back to the aspect of health, they try to make a distinction that there's a difference between agriculture and health. I wish to make a point that as of now, there's what we call One Health, which is being promoted, which means agriculture and health, they are cross-cutting. Take, for example, the aspect of prevention of zoonotic disease emergence. If a farmer is keeping his or her livestock, you should know that this livestock can serve as a breeding ground for the transmission of disease to humans. And so when you have that consciousness, you know that whether plants, livestock, or health, they are cross-cutting. So that's why the world today is encouraging the aspect of One Health, and with emphasis on prevention of zoonotic disease emergence.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof, for bringing that up. Indeed, it's an emerging concept, One Health, and it's something that being considered. It looks at the interlinkages between human, animal, and then the environment. And so it's really important. I guess they had this deliberation because we had deliberately segregated the two. But thank you very much for raising it up.
Sorry. The distinction that we mentioned there was not related to One Health. I think everybody in KNUST is a supporter of One Health because we're beneficial of One Health policy. We're just to make sure about what happens exactly related to some innovations within the hospital and the importance of the various treatments that is going to be given to various patients and humans, and also in the area of manipulation of DNA related to genetic diseases. And that is where we think that for human beings, this area is still very sensitive, and it has to be taken into conclusion that it is human health that you are dealing with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all. So we are going to call it a day. We know that some people had really long travels and would have to rest. So thank you once again. All right, so just for some housekeeping or logistics, we do have our colleague, that's our finance person. I believe she's in now. Is she? Okay, so she will be coming in tomorrow. So when you are coming in tomorrow, those who flew, if you could kindly bring your boarding passes and also a copy of your ID. I think those are the two that she needs, a copy of your ID. And so she is going to give you the daily subsistence allowance, and you are going to pay for the hotel and breakfast from that amount. So it's $40 a day for the accommodation and breakfast. So those who are here for 3 days, that's 120 for each person. But you will have far more than enough when you are given the DSA. So please come with your boarding passes and with your a copy. Yeah, because if you come with your passport, it will be very difficult for her to get the copy. So please get the copy before you come in. I believe maybe the reception could make copies for us, and then we'll bring that in. She has the tickets already, so we'll find time in between the sessions for her to pay. And would really like to urge everyone to make the payment tomorrow to the uni at the reception, because when we're rushing the following day, it may be very easy to forget. So it's good to do everything tomorrow. Is there any question? None? Okay, then have a good rest, and we'll see you here tomorrow at 8:30. Merci beaucoup. It's an emerging concept, One Health, and it's something that being considered. It looks at the interlinkages between human, animal, and then the environment. And so it's really important. I guess they had this deliberation because we had deliberately segregated the two. But thank you very much for raising it up.
Sorry. The distinction that we mentioned there was not related to One Health. I think everybody in KNUST is a supporter of One Health because we're beneficial of One Health policy. We're just to make sure about what happens exactly related to some innovations within the hospital and the importance of the various treatments that is going to be given to various patients and humans, and also in the area of manipulation of DNA related to genetic diseases. And that is where we think that for human beings, this area is still very sensitive, and it has to be taken into conclusion that it is human health that you are dealing with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all. So we are going to call it a day. We know that some people had really long travels and would have to rest. So thank you once again.